We now open up the Town Council of St. Andrews regular council meeting, Tuesday, September the 5th, 2023, 6:34 p.m. At the W.C. O'Neill Arena Complex Chambers. So A is a recording of attendance, and all members are present except for the mayor, which is why I'm in his seat right now. He is in another meeting and journeying back by car, so he may join us or he may join online. So he's not here. Councillor Gumshall is not here either, and the only other one is Councillor Blanchard, who will be on Zoom. He's just getting off the plane, so we have to give him time to put his land legs on and run to a communications center or something. Anyway, everybody else is here, and I thank you, Council, for being here, and CHCO-TV for doing the taping of it. I want to recognize, B is the land recognition of the Pescatawamacati Nation. So we welcome and we recognize that we are on the unceded territory and the traditional territory of the Pescatawamacati people. And then we are on to the approval of the agenda, so I will need a motion to accept what we have, but I also have a couple of amendments to add, a couple of letters that have come in and you've received, and what was the third thing? Sorry, Mr. Knopper.
Deputy Mayor, it'll be under section 6.1 under the planning.
Right. It was on the under 6.1. The planning and develop economic, that would be yours, Councillor Heenan, and there would be an amendment with the third resolution that all parking be in the back. And this was a recommendation by the planners and the PAC. So those are the three things we need to add to our agenda. So do we need to do that? We need to accept the agenda first and then make the changes afterwards. So could I have a mover for the agenda? Councillor Bennett, second Councillor Hurdle. And then for the amendments, the two new communications letters, and which you received on at your seat. And the third one is the planning and economic development. Councillor Heenan, your portfolio, with the third reading, a resolution that all parking be in the backyard, and this was recommended by the planners and the PAC, correct?
Correct.
So I need a mover for those three motions. Councillor Harlan, seconded by Councillor Heenan. So we'll go back to the first one. No? Motion?
To accept the amendment.
The amendment. A motion to accept the amendment. Councillor Heenan? No, that's with Harlan and Heenan.
So, Deputy Mayor, you've had a motion for the amendment. You've had you started with your regular motion. Then you have had a motion for the amendment with two councillors. What you need to do is
accept
all
it.
in favor.
Right. All in favor? Carried.
And then go back.
And then we will go back to the approval of the agenda as at first. So all those in favor say aye. Aye. Contrary-minded? Carried as well. So the amendments and the agenda are now carried. So disclosure of conflict of interest. Are there any for tonight? I don't see any hands, and I don't see Councillor Blanchard, so I don't know. And the mayor, I don't think there's any conflicts tonight. It will be later on. We have no presentations. So we're on to F, which is the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. So if there are no changes in the minutes, I'll breeze through them like the mayor does, because I'm in his seat and I'm following his rules. So are there any amendments to be made to any of the minutes? Not seeing any hands, so I'm going to breeze right through them. So the first one is the minutes of the 230808 public hearing of objections to amendment Z22-05 to the zoning bylaw Z2201 on Tuesday, August the 8th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. So I need a first and a seconder. First by Councillor Heenan, second by Councillor Bennett. All those in favor of accepting the minutes of that night, say aye. Contrary minded? Carried. The second one is the minutes of the 23:08:08 regular council meeting on Tuesday, August the 8th, 2023 at 6:45 PM. And these were the regular council meetings, so I need a first, Councillor Neal, second, Councillor Hurdle. All those in favor, aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Carried. This is a piece of cake. Minutes of the 23:08:28 special council meeting on Monday, August 28th, 2023 at 6:30 PM. And I need a firster, Councillor Harlan, seconded by Councillor Neal. All those in favor for accepting those minutes, say aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Carried. All right, so we're now on to G, which is communications, and where we have the additional 2 letters. So the first one is the council discussion on support for CHCO-TV and social media. So I just have to find my page, or, yeah. Do we do that one next, or, right?
Your worship, you would do
or
the first.
Did I skip Councillor Spears' report?
Page 27.
27, thank you very much. 17.
Your worship, maybe Councillor Hurdle could speak to it, where he
Yes,
kind of brought
okay,
it forward.
Councillor Hurdle, while I'm looking for my page.
Yeah, I just wanted, I guess, Brad, what he's looking for is just consensus among council so that he can approach this subject possibly with other municipalities. Obviously, we know, and we have her in the room as well, Vicky has worked tirelessly to keep CHCO alive despite Meta blocking their access to distribute news through Facebook. So I was wondering if we might put together a letter and gather signatures from other municipalities who have similarly benefited by the existence of local media, primarily CHCO. Ultimately, you know, in the face of something like Meta, it may be ultimately symbolic, but I think it is still important, and how important CHCO has been to us as well, that we throw our support behind her and that organization. As we all know, it's done a tremendous service for us in the community and for us as well individually. So whatever way we can support, I'd like to support. So I believe Brad's just looking for consensus that he has the ability to put something like that together.
Any other discussion, council? Councillor Heenan?
I totally agree. Thank you, Councillor Hurdle.
You're welcome. Anybody else? I think we're all in support of CHCO-TV because it's not just for St. Andrews, it's for the whole Charlotte County, and they broadcast a lot of places, not just Charlotte County. So I like to see the news being spread, at least with our opinions on it as well. So even though I'm not supposed to speak, I'm going to speak. Welcome, Councillor Blanchard. It's nice to see you. So, that being said, Council, I think we're all in favor of having the mayor write a letter on behalf of our support of CHCO-TV against the media block. Is that correct? Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of nodding heads, so I'm assuming that is correct. Councillor Blanchard, I know you just came on, but did you hear the conversation about supporting CHCO-TV with the media block and that
Yes.
the mayor would write a letter?
Yes, I did. Yeah, and I would support that.
You're okay with it? Okay, great. So it's unanimous. All right. And so the second one is to add the 2 letters that we received. One is from the Chamber of Commerce, which is from Julie Halbed. I probably pronounced that wrong. But she's just up informing us of what's happening with the chamber and the Wellness Welcome Center. You don't want me to read that. They're quite well able to read it.
Well, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to read it if I could.
Oh, you can if you would
That's all
like.
right.
I don't mind, or I
yeah.
could read it, whatever you prefer.
Just in the light of the tremendous amount of work that the
Efforts.
Welcome Center and the Chamber has put in this summer, it's been a busy one, I think, and as well as we have supported them over the past year, they wanted to keep us informed on the type of summer that they've had to date. So this is a letter that came in from Julia, and on behalf of the membership, the Board of Directors, and of St. Andrews Chamber of Commerce, they're reaching out to Council once more to express their gratitude for supporting the Welcome Center operation for the 2023 season. As they're more than halfway through their peak season, they'd like to share some insight and statistics to emphasize the success that they've had so far. Thanks to the funding received from the municipality, they were able to hire 2 full-time employees, Ali Wilcox and Aslihan Errol, in addition to their executive director who oversees and manages the operation. They've also welcomed back 5 community volunteers, and again, I'll always call out and recognize and thank volunteers in the area. Doug Naish, Barry Murray, Betty Ann Lord, Dave Lord, and Rick Smith, who offer obviously a lot of experience and additional insight and support. The 2023 season has been consistently busy and exceeds last year's numbers by far. Since May 15, when the center opened for its 7-day operation, they've served a total of 9,143 guests. In the second half of May, they served 596 guests, 1,774 in June, 3,385 in July, and 3,388 in August. Over the Canada Day long weekend, they assisted 594 visitors and residents alone at their pop-up booth downtown, at the market, and at the Welcome Center. They've also partaken in the weekly farmers market since the end of May and have directed 1,546 visitors and residents to the booth. Throughout a typical day, they highlight businesses and attractions and oftentimes contribute to the extended stays in the area. Upon arrival, guests are sometimes not aware of all the aspects of St. Andrews and Charlotte County have to offer, and after an orientation at the Welcome Center, consider using St. Andrews as a base for further explorations in the area. In absence of provincial or regional visitor centers, they serve as a gateway to Charlotte County, the Bay of Fundy, and the province at large, and carry resources from a variety of areas in New Brunswick. As part of their collaboration with Explore St. Andrews, they've collected visitor surveys providing valuable data that can be used for destination marketing and tourism promotion. Like in previous years, they are also working together with accommodation businesses, collecting daily vacancies and directing visitors accordingly to get them filled. In addition, tour operators such as Atlantic Tours always stop at the Welcome Center on the way into town to collect information and collateral. They are proud, and I'm also proud of what they've accomplished so far, and I'd like to thank Council once more for the support they received. Towards the fall, they'll be happy to provide with another overview of the year's operation, but I think when we talked about previously the support that we did give them versus the visitors that we had, having coming close to 10,000, I'd probably easily say that we'll cross that boundary. 10,000 visitors to the community over the course of a summer is certainly something to recognize, and I wanted to thank them for their work as well.
Thank you, Councillor Hurdle, and thank you, Chamber of Commerce. We know great work that you do, and thank you, Council, for supporting them. That is great. The second one is on the extension of brewery's Oktoberfest peddler permit. So this is from Charlie Bartlett, who is the chair, I assume. I understand that the town has approved the St. Andrews Brewery to have a food truck in a specified location adjacent to their building during the Oktoberfest event on Saturday, the 23rd of September. As I mentioned last week, the Char and Chowder is providing the food service to the brewery. We plan to do this with the Minister's Island's food trailer, from which we have been successfully executing food service offering during the concert series on the island. As you have made me aware, this event is only for one day, which makes the economics of doing so challenging with transportation, insurance, etc. As you advised me to do, I am requesting the town approve a lengthening of duration of the stay from just the Saturday, 23rd, to include Thursday, the 21st, and Friday, the 22nd, and Sunday, the 24th, afterward. Please let me know what other information or assurances you require. I would be happy to present the request to Council if necessary. And thank you for your consideration, Charlie Bartlett. So, Council, any comments, suggestions? Yes, Mr. Spear, you want to explain?
Yeah, Council. We just normally, when it comes to food vendors, we have not been allowing them in town because of the short season duration for restaurants and stuff. Council has in the past made an exception for the Oktoberfest and indulged too, but outside of those two events, which are servicing unusual needs, we typically don't allow them. While staff is sympathetic with Mr. Bartlett's position, it was all organized under the one-day assumption, and so it could be a challenge. The market's going to be mostly closed off for those days because there's going to be a tent down there, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. If the And then the farmer's market's still going on the Thursday, so it'd be closed basically from Wednesday night through till Sunday afternoon, the market, in order to achieve all of this, which could be a challenge for some of the businesses, and it is direct competition for two businesses right in the square, as an additional to other restaurateurs along the street. So from staff's perspective, we typically wouldn't approve this, and this is so why we brought it forward for you for your input.
Can I add something to that? We did also do it on Canada Day at one point, but we haven't done it the last few years, but it was done on Canada Day. We had the food trucks by the post office.
Yes,
But,
it's
that
typically,
being said,
yeah. Even
it's
for,
usually just a one-day affair.
well, even for Indulge, it's because it's part of the Taste of St. Andrews celebration. It doesn't necessarily set up for all the days during Indulge.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Spear, for that explanation. Councillor Heenan?
I can't remember, Chris, what did we do last year? Did we have it for 1 day or 2? Just 1. Thank you very much.
Councillor Neal?
Yeah, it was just a question, I guess, with regards to, I guess, comparing it to what we did do last year. I do remember that we approved the 1-day use of the food truck specifically for Oktoberfest, being that it was a unique menu. It had the full support of the surrounding restaurants because they weren't in direct competition with them. And I was just wondering if that was, if we have any indication if that's the case again this year. Are they going to be serving that unique menu again that is not in competition, and do the surrounding restaurants support it as they did last year?
Mr. Spear, do you have any information on that?
So I can only answer half of that. They'll have a unique menu, but it's still, it may not be the same items, but it's still for the same food dollars. For 1 day is one thing, but over 4 days, it's a little bit different. And kind of unique too, you know, with the St. Andrews Brewing Company's business plan, people can bring food from anywhere in town, which is great. And so, you know, it's one thing if other vendors, or if they weren't able to bring other food and that was the only source for the St. Andrews Brewing Company who's hosting it. But, you know, right now, at least under their liquor license, you know, they could go down the street and pick up from any one of the restaurants, or run to the convenience store, grocery store, pick up bags of chips and go there. So it's, at the end of the day, unique items, but I would suggest it's still for the same food dollars, especially for those that might start at noon and finish the night off at 2 in the morning.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. Council, any other comments? Councillor Harland?
So I can appreciate that it's a challenging situation. In terms of wanting to be careful not to negatively affect or impact our other restaurants. However, I also think competition is a good thing. And, you know, this food truck, I'm assuming Char and Chatter will still be open as well, won't it? So in terms of competition, he potentially is providing something that could be competing against his own business. I see it as a benefit. I am in favor of us as a town looking at all kinds of alternatives to attract people. I think food trucks do bring, do entice other people to potentially take advantage of that. Some people aren't looking for a sit-down meal. I think it's a great opportunity to see how it flies, how people support it, and to also get a sense from our other restaurants if indeed it has impacted the business. So I personally am in favor of it. I'd like to see how it goes.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just
Councillor
for clarity, so the option that's before us is either no food trucks at all, because if we say no to this, there's no food trucks, or 1 food truck for 4 days. Is that correct?
No, Your Worship. So at the last regular council meeting, you approved for 1 day for Oktoberfest. So
Right.
it would be on the Saturday, the 23rd at this point in time.
With what I understand from
But
the
is that
letter here, he
multiple?
can't do that for economic reasons, so it would have to be the 4 or no food truck at all. Just want to make sure that this is the same food truck. It's not 2 food trucks.
No, it's the one.
Just the
it's
one.
the one food trailer that will be parked there that they're requesting for 4 days.
Right, okay.
Now, also to note, this hasn't been discussed with spacing for the farmers market either for the Thursday, so that would also have to be reviewed whether it's brought in after, if that is for consideration for council as well. So please keep that in mind.
Thank you.
Councillor Heenan?
Yes, Your Worship and Council, I feel where we've already approved this, we've already done it. If this is something that needs to come forward, then it would come forward next year for council's consideration, not at the last minute. So I would, where we've approved it already for Saturday, the 23rd, I would stick with that. That would be my vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Heenan. Councillor Bennett, do you have a response? I'm just going to go around the table, Council.
No, I like Councillor Heenan's position, Deputy Mayor. I think what he's saying is very reasonable in light of this situation. The other thing that puts to mind for me is it was only a few weeks ago we denied access for another dispensary truck in our neighborhood, and we adamantly opposed it. And I think to approve an opening for more food trucks in the area, or more portable trucks, I guess, is kind of not in good taste after just denying one.
Thank you, Councillor Bennett. Councillor Neal?
Yeah, I think I would agree with Councillor Heenan as well. Again, I think we approved it for the 1 day. I am totally in favor of the competition, but I think it could be a bit of a slippery slope where we have denied other food trucks before. And I would feel more comfortable just sticking with the 1 day that we had already approved.
Thank you, Councillor Neal. Councillor Harlan, are you okay, or shall I move on?
No, I
Councillor
would just
Harlan.
like to say, I see this food truck as being very different than a marijuana dispensary truck. I see it as total apples and oranges. In terms of, with respect to Councillor Heenan's point, I respect the fact that we made a decision. However, we also have a businessman saying to us, it does have implications. So I think it's new information that we do need to consider. So I'm just again stating that I'm in support.
Councillor Harlan, Councillor...
Deputy Mayor, can you go to the...
Oh, Councillor Blanchard, I'm
Thank you.
so sorry. I was going to get there. I was just going around a circle.
No, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Actually, I think I'm probably more in favor, or more in agreement with Councillor Harland. I do see this as sort of the different situation as opposed to what Councillor Bennett was referring to. This, to me, is sort of a one-off type event. This isn't a regular thing that's going to be happening day after day, week after week. I don't see... I understand that we did approve the 1 day. Maybe 4 days is a little bit too much, but certainly I could see the Friday before the event and possibly the Sunday after the event. I also was curious to know, do we have any idea how late the food truck will be serving food? Just knowing that the majority of our restaurants' kitchens probably close somewhere around 9 or 10 o'clock. I'm wondering, I don't see this as necessarily direct competition with some of the sit-down restaurants that we have. I think it's sort of a different clientele they're trying to serve, and possibly providing food later than the majority of our restaurants in town. So there's some advantage to that on the Friday, Saturday, possibly the Sunday, but certainly the Friday and the Saturday.
Thank you, Councillor Blanchard. Staff, can you respond to that? Would you,
We're just discussing. We know for sure that, of course, the night of Oktoberfest is open till 11 to 11, but all 3 nights or 4 nights.
It's just the 1 night. It's 11 to 11. I don't know.
Yeah, we aren't entirely sure about the other nights. It wasn't within the request.
I can't speak, can I?
You can speak in general terms.
Okay, Councillor Weir?
I just have a question for staff. When Mr. Bartlett made his initial application to set up the truck, which we approved for 1 day, did he actually make an application for 1 day?
It was through the Oktoberfest committee directly, and so this is just part of that. We told him to get a peddler's permit as part of the process, and when he did he decided or hoped that he'd be able to extend it for the additional days.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. Mr. Weir, Councilor Weir, does that answer your question? Are you satisfied? Sorry.
Your worship.
Councilor Hurdle? Oh,
No, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. It just, where it's potentially a split council, we're going to have to go with a motion instead of the usual consensus of council.
I know that, but we haven't heard from Councilor Hurdle, and I would like to interject a historic thing.
Are you just looking for my thoughts, Your Worship? Yeah.
Yes, I am.
I mean, I'm in favor of this. I don't see this really being too far, too far to ask. It's basically just the Oktoberfest food service is asking to be there in a way that's economically viable for them to do so. I don't have too many complaints about that from that point of view. Again, maybe is a Thursday necessary? It's like Councillor Blanchard said, perhaps not. But again, I mean, don't want to nickel and dime something like this, so I'm in support of it.
Thank you, Councilor Hurdle. Historically, we have had many people come before us that wished to have carts for food. And historically, we have looked at it and said, no, we would not want a lot of carts down there. Now, I know this is a special event, Indulge, and I have worked it many years, and it does go past the 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and sometimes the food is great, and there's lots of lineups, and it does present a variety, and that most of the restaurants are closed after 8, 9 o'clock at night, so this gives them another venue when you're out wandering the town, which is kind of very nice to have these. But historically, we had decided that we would not allow food carts, and that was due to some of the other restaurants wanting to have food carts downtown that were not in the downtown core, the heritage core, and we decided that we were not going to do that. Councillor Hurdle.
Thank you, Worship. Just a point of order, this is for Oktoberfest and not
Yes.
for the Indulge. Yeah, so it's a different
sorry,
kind of thing. It's not
Oktoberfest, pardon me.
built around
I,
a number of
get a
events.
little-
It's just one event at one location. Just want to make that clear. Thank you.
That's right, but it is what, I mean, on different events, we have had this request come in several times. And that was one of the historically things that we would not promote the number of food carts in our heritage area. But that's just historically, I'm not commenting, I'm just not allowed to, but I'm just telling you historically because I was there. Thank you. And Councillor Heenan.
Worship and Council, just one more point. I just worry that if we take this on, we're opening a can of worms. Because we have had, as you said, in history, and we will have complaints, a lot of them, from the restaurateurs that are in that area. If we have this, we are not, we're not really the style of, shall I say, like New River Beach. I mean, this is in our Market Square area. I feel that it's really great to have it for the one night of the event, which we all voted for. I just feel that if this is something that this council wants to look at, then it should be looked at another time, not tonight. I feel that if council's feelings is to open this up for more discussion, then we should do it in a council way, not just deciding it on a one-on-one. Thank you.
No, I think Mr. Knopper had said that we need to make a motion of this in order to go forward. We can table it or discuss it at a later date, but October is coming on fast as we are now into the very 1st of September. But I will
Please
let
note-
staff respond to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Please note this is actually happening September 23rd, so would only be one other meeting if council wanted to, and that would be the 18th. So preferably
Yeah, so
council
it's not
makes a
very long,
decision.
and this is, we only have one other council meeting, correct? So what is the wish of all of council? Shall we make a motion and then vote upon it?
Yep.
Or,
I'm prepared to make a motion. Help me with the wording, Paul. I move to allow Charlie Bartlett to have a food truck for the Oktoberfest event, which will include potentially Thursday, but Friday, September 22nd, and Saturday, September 23rd, and Sunday, September 24th, as part of Oktoberfest.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, we need clarification on the Thursday. It can't just
Right.
be,
Yeah, it can't
needs
be-
to be
yeah.
either a yes or a
Oh,
no to that. So
okay.
you can't just be a,
Specific. And we will have discussion after this, correct? So you will get the opportunity to shorten the days if you would prefer to shorten it. But
As requested by Charlie Bartlett, I move that we allow a food truck to be part of Oktoberfest for Thursday, October 21st through to Sunday, October 24th. September.
We're on October, but it's September.
I messed that up.
I did that,
Sorry.
I've just got October on the brain. All right, so I need a seconder first for her motion. But Councillor Blanchard is waving, so Councillor Blanchard is seconding. And now we can open it up again to discussion before we vote. Council, who shall speak now or forever hold your peace? Councillor Neal?
Yeah, again, just to add to what I said earlier, I think 4 days to me is just a little too big an ask at the moment. It does seem like a bit of a slippery slope with regards to food trucks, and I would kind of tend to just agree with staff's opinion that we either stick to the 1 day, or I think I could probably even get my head around, say, Friday and Saturday, but not
Okay.
the Thursday and Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Neal. So that would be an amendment or a friendly amendment? No, it has to be amendment. I saw Mr. Spears shake his head. Councillor Heenan?
I would split the difference. I would be all right with Friday and Saturday, Your Worship.
Any other comments? Yes, Councillor, Mr. Spear? A motion? Okay. Heenan? Is that correct? Is that okay, Councillor Neal and Councillor Heenan? All right.
Just a point of order, Your Worship, sorry, I couldn't, the microphone wasn't on for, I don't know if that was Mr. Spear or Mr. Knopper. I couldn't hear what was said.
Oh,
Sorry, Councillor Blanchard, it was, we just made a motion to amend that was moved by Councillor Neal, seconded by Councillor Heenan, that to only allow the opening on Friday and Saturday.
to recommend it
Thank you.
2 days. 2 days instead of the 4 days. And it would be Friday and Saturday. All right.
So you should
So
vote
we
on
should,
the-
we should
the
motion,
amendment first, Your
we
Worship.
vote on the amendment first. All those in favor of the amendment? Aye. And contrary minded, that's, wait a minute, that's one,
Can we,
two.
yeah.
You've
we're
got
to
the
split.
count?
Can everyone hold their
Okay.
hands for the
Hold your hands up, please.
first,
For the first, for 2 days.
for 2 days?
For 2 days.
Yeah.
For 2 days. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6, 5. 6. Okay. Is there, okay. And contrary minded? 1. Councillor Bennett. So now we go back to the original motion and vote on the 4 days. All those in favor? No?
you know, as amended. So very
As
similar
amended,
like you
so-
did with your start of the meeting. As
Okay,
amended.
as amended for this motion, as amended for the 2 days out of the 4. All those in favor? Contrary minded? Just Councillor Bennett. Carried.
Thank you, Council.
Is that correct, Mr. Knopper? All right, so we've done that one, which is the letter. Okay, thank you. So now we do communications. We just finished communications. So now we are on to the introduction and consideration and pass,
no,
oh,
staff
your
report.
report. That's right.
Sorry, Your Worship.
Staff report. Mr. Spear, would you like to?
With August completed, it is certainly noticeable that fall is in the air, except it's 30 degrees when I walked into the thing here. So this is... I am happy to summarize the ongoing initiatives of the town of St. Andrews. We had a pre-budget consultation August 28th to lay out last year's process and to speak with some of the upcoming challenges. One of the key points is that there are local costs in Bayside and Shamcook, such as policing, solid waste collection, and transportation, that in dollar terms are the same as St. Andrews, but spread over a much smaller population and assessment base. We hope to enter different contracts over the next few years, which will lower the overall cost to all taxpayers. We are welcoming and appointing a new staff member tonight, as Bill Rigby is taking on the dual role of fire operator and bylaw enforcement officer. He'll be working with both Chief Terrio and senior staff as he learns his new roles and goes through orientation. Also before council tonight is an update of arena rates for your consideration. We are in line with other local arenas, although we do not differentiate between prime and off-prime rates. Despite larger than inflation increases in some costs, such as power, insurance, and equipment repairs, we have limited the increase to 3%. In order to lower the cost of construction, the Dog Park Committee is hoping to change the proposed location to between Cemetery Road and the ball field fence. While we appreciate the hope to get it built fast, staff do not believe that is a good spot and will look for alternatives that will help make it a reality faster than its proposed location. Administration. As a follow-up to the budget, we need any members or organizations who have an idea for a new initiative or a funding request over $2,000 to get it to myself or the town clerk over the next few weeks so it can be considered. With rising costs and capital needs, council may have several hard decisions before them this year. Last week, council met with Xander Gopin, senior planner of the Service Commission, to come up with a game plan for considering their current rural plans, for consolidating the current rural plans with the municipal planning and zoning bylaws. For those in Bayside and Shamcook, the plans will not look the same as the regulations in St. Andrews, where property lots are much smaller. The bylaws require consultation and input from the residents. Some very basic planning statements are important to reduce the chance of incompatible development, for instance, a pulp mill being put in the middle of several residences. Other policy and bylaw suggestions will be heard and considered by council too. We are exploring hosting after-school skating and puck handling times for youth. We are aiming to pilot it in the fall and will be putting out a call to volunteers to assist us. More information will be made available in September on this new service. I've been involved in several meetings in dealing with the aftermath of local governance reform, including stakeholder groups on policing, fiscal policies, and the changing landscape, as well as providing input on various evolving provincial regulations. It needs to be noted that in this time of considerable reform, the ability of elected officials or staff to review the massive amounts of legislation is limited. We rely on the municipal associations, such as the Union of Municipalities and the Association of Municipal Administrators, to provide an in-depth review and commentary back to the Department of Local Government. However, there is still an onus on the local government to keep up with all the changes. The exercise park is up and running, forgive the pun, and we'd like to input on the name. We will look for council to determine the process, if any, in naming the location. We have held off on a location sign until we can discuss council's preference on this matter. Mark the date, cancel your other plans, and get ready for Municipalities Week on September 18th at 24th. No applause. We are partnering with Vincent Malley Elementary School to have a mayor for the day and for a ride in a fire truck. We're also having a contest for photos for the general community to submit and be judged to win a $100 gift certificate of a business of your choice within the St. Andrews. This is an opportunity to bring to the forefront of the local government, the community, and the individuals who make it so special. Staff are actively working on updating the website. We are still collecting a few photos to round out the new community and hope to have it completed by late September. We are abandoning the current site and building it from the ground up. Although summer is closing out, there are multiple events to keep the weekend and evening busy. Oktoberfest, the Jag and Boat Regatta, and the annual Community Awards all take place in September, with Indulge happening in October. Under services, it has been a busy month for our Public Works crew as we had a lot of events, lots of projects, and the grass continues to grow with all the moisture. I am appreciative of the work completed internally at the exercise park and preparing for the new washrooms. We are also short a person for the next several weeks, so we are rearranging priorities and may need to bring in subcontractors on occasion to move forward. The Ross Museum staff have been planning the 200th anniversary of Chestnut Hall in 2024. To mark this achievement, they are planning on special exhibits, presentations, and events throughout the year. Unfortunately, the Christmas open house will not be going on this year, but we plan to kick it off again, post-pandemic next year. In August, the cultural facilities had approximately 6,000 visitors. The Youth Center finished off their summer camps with the last week being themed Entrepreneurship Week. The participants made items and then brought them out to the front street to sell during the farmers market. It was deemed a success as they sold out. We would like to thank all the community members who helped the youth meet their goals. The fire chief wants to remind everyone that they operate a 50-50 draw in conjunction with other volunteer departments in New Brunswick. The proceeds are to put additional equipment, such as a portable pump they brought recently, to help with off-road fires. The easiest way to find it is to Google 50-50 SAFD and it'll pop up, or ask one of your fire departments or your local councillor Neil, and I'm sure he can help you find a location for tickets. The wharf had several unique visitors over the month, including the Hartford Hybrid, an electric diesel fiberglass boat, whale rescue, the U.S. Coast Guard, and the Fundy North Navy Island Cleanup Group. Staff would also like to bring to council's attention an issue we are having with squid fishers. It has been a lucrative season, and they've been on the lower pontoon several nights a week. The issue is the deck is left a mess from the ink, and it is causing damage. Knowing the staff will be finished around Thanksgiving, it's presenting a safety issue and a life of infrastructure concern. We will need direction from council and your thoughts on this. In conclusion, there's going to be multiple opportunities to shape the future of the three communities that together form the town of St. Andrews. With the budget process and municipal plan consultation, I highly encourage residents to stay informed and provide needed feedback to your council. Respectfully, Chris Spear, Chief Administrative Officer.
Thank you, Councillor Spear. I would like to add September 30th as the Truth and Reconciliation Day. It will be held on Indian Point at 6:30, and it will be held on that Saturday, although the holiday is on the Monday. We decided it will be on the 30th, which is the day they chose as Truth and Reconciliation Day from the Truth and Reconciliation Commissions and government. So there will be the same thing as we've had. We're just working on getting the poster out. It'll be on our website. Anything else to add? No. All right, I need for all the staff reports to be accepted, so I need a mover. Councillor Neal, and a seconder, Councillor Heenan. So here's the question. All those in favor of accepting the reports? Aye. Contrary minded? Carried. All right, now we move on to the consideration and passing of bylaws and motions. And because I am acting as mayor, because the mayor is at another meeting, I have asked Councillor Harlan to read my portfolio of finance and administration. Councillor Harlan, thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So the first motion is reference number FA 230918. The subject is Municipal Finance Corporation acquisition of debentures. As part of our capital program, the council previously applied to the Municipal Capital Borrowing Board for projects in 2022, and 2023. Now that the projects are completed, we need to make a formal motion to the New Brunswick Municipal Finance Corporation for the issuance of debentures to cover the needed borrowing. The below resolution is for the following projects. MO 21-0050, Trail Building 2022, for $125,000. MO 23-008, Asphalting 2023, for $195,000. MO 2022-008, Water Sewer, Ernest Sophia and Princess Royal 2022, for $400,000. And MO 23-008, Alexander Crescent, for $200,000. So the motion reads, be it resolved that the clerk or treasurer and mayor or deputy mayor be authorized to issue and sell to the New Brunswick Municipal Finance Corporation, a municipality of the town of St. Andrews, debenture in the principal sum of $920,000 on such terms and conditions as are recommended by the New Brunswick Municipal Finance Corporation. And be it resolved that the municipality of the town of St. Andrews agrees to issue post-dated checks payable to the New Brunswick Municipal Finance Corporation as and when requested in payment of principal and interest charges on the debenture. I know. Do I have to read that? I do. So, I'm not sure how to do that. Just as is. So under general, 21-0050, August 17th. The date of council's resolution, April 6, 2021. The purpose was by function is transportation. The amount is $125,000, and the term was 15 years. The ministerial order 2300-0008. The date of the ministerial order was February 13th, 2023. Date of council's resolution was December 12th, 2022. Purpose was transportation, $195,000 for 15 years. Under utility, ministerial order 22-0008. Date of the ministerial order January 10th, 2022. Date of council's resolution December 6th, 21. The purpose was environmental health in the amount of $400,000 for 25 years. And the ministerial order 23-0008. Date of the ministerial order February 13th, 2023. Date of council's resolution December 12th, 22. Purpose environmental health in the amount of $200,000 for 25 years. And I so move.
Thank you, Councillor Harland. A seconder, please. Councillor Heenan. Any further discussion? Okay. All ready for the question? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And contrary-minded? So carried.
I had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. You didn't. I didn't see your hand. I'm so sorry, Councillor Weir.
I guess my question, first, I'm just trying to reconcile the agenda. Reconcile the agenda to the actual motion, but two items on there were transportation, which I guess was trail building and asphalt, and the other two were utility. And I guess my question on the capital debt with the Municipal Capital Borrowing Board, we've basically been told that the utility is paid by the water, the rest is in one lump sum. What this effectively does is put $195,000 in debt on the tax burden of Shamcook and Bayside, when we're already paying 41.5 cents per hundred on, for our highway use now. You know, we're paying double what the town is for the Works Department, and yet we're also paying for the capital costs that the Works Department incurs. And I know the government was going to miss some things in this process, but it appears as though they missed something rather substantial there.
Counselor Spear? Mr. Spear, sorry.
You're correct. Well, you're partially correct, Councillor Ware, is that it is being incorporated into the two towns. I think it will come up on budget time because they recognize, for the same reason that the town wouldn't pick up the new cost of new asphalting on the provincial roads, that there will be an opportunity to split up the debt between local cost and shared cost, is my assumption, because I had the same question. And they say there's no tight regulation, but it can be discussed by council. It's not a tight yes or no. Like the previous debt was is going to be carried by the standalone entity, which is only going to be St. Andrews because there's no debt in the other two communities. But in this case, when it's issued, the first payments won't come out till next year. We'll have to look at that, and council will have to make a determination what is the best way to split that, whether it's under shared or, as you mentioned, a local cost for just the community of St. Andrews.
One follow-up?
Counselor Ware?
I guess the other question, of course, is with any debt, there's bridge financing and there's interim financing, whatever you want to call it. It's all the same thing. The interest on that, I assume, just goes into the operating costs of the consolidated entity.
That's correct. For at least that's been our practice. That I know in private business accounting, sometimes for capital projects they'll include it as the cost of construction, but most municipalities just practice including the interim costing as thing. For specifically, unusually for the grants from the Government of Canada and the province, they actually won't allow you to claim that for interim financing. So we've just been following that practice in line with them.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. Counselor Weir, are you satisfied? All right, we were in the midst of voting, and we did vote. You want to re-vote because he didn't vote? So, councillors, I will ask you to re-vote on that that motion. All those in favor? Aye. Counter-reminded? You can't, yeah. It is a yes. So carried. Councillor Harlan, continue.
Okay. So the next recommended motion is reference number FA 230920. And the subject is proclamation for fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, September 5th, 2023. And the background is as follows. The town of St. Andrews has received a request from the Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorder Newfoundland and Labrador and Atlantic Canada to proclaim September 2023 as Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorder Awareness Month. FASDNL works to educate, network, and share resources to improve the lives of individuals, families, and communities across all 4 Atlantic provinces, and is leading a multi-year FASD project funded by the Public Health Agency of Canada. By promoting accurate and credible information, FASDNL is focused on increasing awareness of fetal alcohol disorder and related issues among individuals, families, and communities. Such awareness efforts will assist in the prevention of fetal alcohol disorder and increase support and functioning of those affected by FASD. Please see the attached proclamation for review and consideration by the Council. So the motion is that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews proclaims September 2023 as Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorder Awareness Month to support FASDNL Multi-Year Atlantic Canada Awareness Campaign. And I so move.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Harland. Seconder? Councillor Weir? Okay. And any more discussion on that? I'd just like to add that fetal alcohol syndrome was very important through my teaching career, that, you know, it was an addiction, but it went through to pregnancy, and the children suffered long through the fetal alcohol syndrome. And it's not just alcohol, drugs, you know, it was to see it within the children that had never had the abused the alcohol or whatever. It was very hard to take in when you're teaching, because you see kids that suffered for a long period of time and are still, maybe even now, could still be suffering. So this is, to me, is very important to me. But and I hope that, and we did support it in the past, so I don't see any that we wouldn't support it. So okay. Any other besides me? No? Okay. Motion to accept this is Harland and Weir have already done it. So now we are going to vote on it, right? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary minded, it's carried unanimously. All right. Yes, sir, I know. I gotta read it. So, I read the whole thing, correct?
You do, and exchange Mayor Henderson's name for yours
Oh.
at the very end.
Shucks. Couldn't I just say Brad Henderson? Town of St. Andrews Proclamation, Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorder and Awareness for the month of September 2023. Whereas fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, FASD, is a diagnostic term used to describe impacts on the brain and bodies of individuals prenatally exposed to alcohol. FASD is a lifelong disability. Individuals with FASD will experience some degree of challenges in their daily living and need support with motor skills, physical health, learning, memory, attention, communications, emotional regulation, and social skills to reach their full potential. Each individual with FASD is unique and has areas of both strengths and challenges, and whereas FASDNL is a pan-provincial organization that educates, provides support and resources, and raises awareness about fetal alcohol spectrum disorder in Newfoundland and Labrador and Atlantic Canada. And whereas FASDNL is leading a 3-year FASD prevention awareness, training, and collaborative action project in the 4 Atlantic provinces. And whereas FASD Awareness Month is devoted to raising awareness of fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, FASD, to improve prevention of FASD diagnosis and support for individuals with FASD, and broad public awareness helps to put FASD on the map. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Town of St. Andrews hereby proclaims September 2023 as FASD Awareness Month. And now, therefore, I, Catherine Ackergy, sorry, I have to use my full name, Deputy Mayor of the Town of St. Andrews, support the proclamation of the FASD Awareness Month for the Town of St. Andrews, signed on September 5th, 2023, and in witness whereof, I have set my hand and caused the the seal of the mayoralty of the town of St. Andrews to be affixed hereto. Thank you. Public Works, Councillor Blanchard, have you got yours with you?
I do, ready to go. Thank you,
All right.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor
So-
Blanchard.
Excuse me. Reference number PW230912. Subject is Circular Materials Program opt-out. So at the August 8th, 2023 regular council meeting, the council was provided a presentation from Hollis Bartlett, Chief Executive Officer of the Regional Service Commission regarding circular materials. The presentation highlighted a new recycling service program the province of New Brunswick will be introducing in May 2024. It was noted that municipalities have the option for opting into the program prior to May 2024, but would incur costs associated with bins, pickup services, educational programs for citizens, and penalties for contamination. It was noted that only one municipality has opted into the program, while all others have opted out, as the costs of operating the program by opting in are high. It was recommended to opt out of the program and allow the province excuse me, to implement the program at their cost. The attached letter notes that the town of St. Andrews has opted out of the program and a formal motion of council is still needed. So the motion that is before us is that the council of the town of St. Andrews opt out of contracting with the circular materials program, and I so move.
Thank you, Councillor Blanchard. I need a seconder. Councillor Bennett. Any more comments, or shall we go to the question? Oh, Councillor Blanchard, did you have a comment?
I did not.
Okay, I thought that was you, sorry. Mr. Spear?
Thank you, Worship. Just as a note, it was, we had written in a report one, but then there's a newspaper article at the end of last week that said there's actually 5 municipalities. Didn't list them, I would have been interested, so I'll have to go do some digging, but there's actually 5 municipalities out of 55, I think, that have opted into the program.
So do we need to change that? No. Okay. All right. There being no further discussion, all ready for the question? All those in favor, say aye. Contrary minded? Carried. All right. So now I must, no. Okay, Councillor Blanchard, you're continuing on.
Thank you. PW230916. Subject is Provincial Municipal Highway Agreement. The Department of Transportation and Infrastructure have rebranded the designated highway program to the Provincial Municipal Partnership Program, post-2023 local governance reform. The program continues to apply to Horse Highway 127 from Clark Road along Mowat Drive to Reed Avenue and from Clark Road along Bayview Drive to Reed Avenue. Staff have asked CBCL Limited to update a prior year plan that is before you for consideration. And the motion is that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews move that the document entitled Town of St. Andrews 4-Year Plan for the Provincial Municipal Highway Partnership Program 2025 to 2028 be adopted, and I so move.
Sorry, I
Just
didn't have
scratching my
my-
chin, but there's one thing I should bring up, Your Worship, just no, my fault. So with a new expanded jurisdiction after the local government's reform, people within, all these other roads that have become part of the town of St. Andrews may wonder if we should be applying for there. But we had a meeting with the Director of Operations with the province of New Brunswick, DTI, and they said, at least for this year, they're only looking at the current or the roads that were always considered designated highways, which for the town has always been from Clark Farm into the Tim Hortons. Still doesn't mean we can't make other requests in another avenue, but under this particular program, if approved, we actually do all the work for it too. So they give us the funding, we have to have our engineers design it, we have to put it out to tender and deal with the contractors on a day-to-day basis. But for those roads, everything from Route 127 to the Harkness Road and other roads, Glebe Road, right now, they aren't eligible for this particular program at this time.
Thank you for that information, Mr. Spear.
Deputy
I
Mayor,
need-
please make sure your mic is on. Thank you.
I have it on. Oh, sorry. It's on now. I'm sorry. Anybody else? Councillor Weir?
Having worked with the designated highways for 40 years, so there's no change whatsoever, but they may allow us to apply to extend the old designated highways to other areas, or?
I think it's fair to say that this is just a gap measure program to get us through this year. They aren't saying one way or the other. What we can do, even without official programs like this, we can make requests to the department on specific roads at any point. I will say we looked at the 5-year highways plan, which is on the website, and nothing on the peninsula is currently on that 5-year plan.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. Ready for the question? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary minded? Carried unanimously. Okay. And your third one is on the discussion on connections in the in-ground infrastructure. Mr. Spear, are you going to speak on that, or will?
I can, Your Worship.
Thank you very much.
So, I'll speak in general terms for this one for now. And so we had an inquiry from a resident about the cost of connecting sewer lines to our infrastructure. And in this particular case, someone had an issue with the connection. It actually, from their house to our main, and they actually had to work into our road in order to get access to it. And so under our current bylaw, it says the responsibilities for the services are laid out there. One is water mains, the town's responsible to the property line. But sewer mains, the homeowner's responsible right to the, or their lateral from the house is responsible right to our main. So what's happened is in some cases it's easy if the sewer main's on the same side as their residence. But in some cases, it's on the other side of the road or in the middle of the road. So property owners have to dig up our road to get at it and then responsible for all the repairs. It happens probably, 2 to 5 times a year. And in all cases, it's been the responsibility, the homeowners have agreed and have paid it, but it runs between $3,000 and $5,000 as general terms. With the cost, it can get high if the line is deep or there's curb and sidewalk involved. They're responsible for restoring everything. So in this case, the homeowner had a serious problem with the sewer, and so they went into a manhole cover to see where the line was, which you can do from street level, and it was about 20 feet underground, which is very deep. That's unusual, but I said in the report, it's because it's towards the end of the line and it's gravity-fed situation. That was probably part of the design back in the 60s or 70s. And so they potentially had to dig very deep. In this particular case, they didn't have to. That the lateral went, I think it was 8 feet, and then kind of did like a quick drop into the main from above, if you will. But the problem was there's only specialty contractors that can go that deep on sewer lines. The problem is, especially with workplace and stuff, you just can't dig a hole. You've got to make a wider hole for safety reasons. And so they had to go down 20 feet. They probably would have had to tore up a whole block, to be honest. But luckily, it didn't come to that. But so the homeowner brings up 2 concerns that in this particular case, that he doesn't think it's fair that a lot of other communities will go to the property line. As I showed in the report, it's kind of a mixed bag. Most smaller communities do like we do, where it's a responsibility of the owner to the mains, except for water. And water's much more highly regulated because it's a potable water situation, so that'd be health regulations. And so they're looking for some sharing of costs. The only thing that it could open up is there's 2 or 3 other potential landowners coming forward with similar circumstances, but we've had probably somewhere between 5 and 10 over the last 5 years or more that have had to pay the full cost, and so they could potentially come back to the town. You know, we've kind of held steadfast to our bylaw. And so in the end, this homeowner ended up bringing down a contractor who used a local contractor to try to save costs, and the local contractor could have done the job in the end, but they literally had no idea what they were getting into. Our records certainly didn't go in there. It was a house built in the 50s or 60s, so there's absolutely no idea where this lateral went. They only knew where it left the house and roughly where the pipe was underground. So they're hoping for relief from that. They haven't come up with a total cost yet, and they've also made a request to speak before council, which if you feel like you want to entertain that, we can. We are going to look at the water and wastewater bylaw later this year, specifically because we're going back to metered and it needs to be updated. And maybe we can put a highlight on that to say that we can have that discussion again about whether or not we want to accept all responsibility outside the property line or not. But if we're adhering to our bylaws, right now it is the owner's responsibility as far as the main for the sewer connections specifically. His cost, I don't know, I'm going to guess is somewhere between $5,000 and $7,000. At the time, they thought it could be up to $20,000 or more if they're going to have to rip up the whole road. And so I think that was written before this email was mostly written before they actually had a chance to address the situation.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. Council, comments? Councillor Harlan? Oop.
I have a question. So in the report you gave us, the homeowner states that he feels it was because the sewer line failed. The sewer line failed because it was improperly installed. So what he asserts in the letter, is that correct?
Well, so the first thing is you'd have to assume that our assumption, because we know it wasn't in the main, but it was in the connection from the main to his residence.
Right.
And so that's the assumption that the town at some point was responsible from the main to at least his property line. So old, we have no idea, honestly. I can't speak to it. As I said in my report, though, that connection, if it's 30 to 40 years old or better, there's a certain amount of, I use the word loosely, wear and tear, or, you're going to have a failure rate. All the equipment, all materials like that, we have to replace our piping in the ground 50 to 75 years apart. So, the quick answer is we don't know. It just, he too would have to make the assumption that the town had installed it from the main. If the clog was actually in the main, I could say yes. But he had indicated that there was a failure along, when I say the lateral, that's the pipe that connects it to the residence.
Right.
That there was a problem along there with some things that were the connectors on the pipes and things that were causing some of the material to get caught up, which caused the clog. And so that may be, but the overall assumption would have to be that the town at some point took that responsibility. I have no idea, since the version of the bylaw that the earliest that I was able to find, without doing a lot more deep digging, was from 2004. At that point, the current policy has been in place at least, but I could go digging for more. But we don't have sufficient records to look back then to actually tell who installed the line at that point in time.
Thank you, Councillor Spear. Councillor Heenan? I mean, Mr. Spear.
Thank you, Counselor. Council, I'm no engineer, so I can't really speak to any of this. The only thing is that I had a personal incident that it was the sewer line got a kink in it after the house was built in 1960 that I had, and there was a kink in it. I was totally responsible. They would only do 25 feet from the center of the road in, and then the rest of the lateral came in was ours. So I had to have it dug up. Like, I mean, I can't blame the contractor from 1960 or the town from 1960 because things do move. Earth shifts. And that's the only thing that I can go by. As I say, I'm no engineer, but you can have something in ground for 40 years and it not move a little or something happen to it. I mean, that's just the way it is, and that's why every house in West St. John has had their front lawn torn up, is because they've all moved. So that's just my experience, but as I say, you know, I'm very sympathetic as well, so I wish I was an engineer and could help, but I can't. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Heenan.
I think Councillor Harland had a follow-up. Your
Councillor
worship.
Harlan, you have a follow-up question?
I did. So I'm just wondering what's on the table for us today. Like, are we the homeowner has asked to meet with council, or are we looking at making a decision tonight?
Well, I don't have a motion before you, so it's a question. We needed to wait until we saw what his total bills were before we could do a motion, and he admitted in his correspondence that he was still waiting on one of the contractors. And so it was a decision whether you wanted to say right up, we'll pay up to X amount of the bill, or if you wanted to wait and have him come in or present a motion before you at next meeting for further discussion, and so you know the amount. The decision has to be made, does not have to be made tonight, just direction on where you'd like to go. If you'd like to entertain it, then we can ask him to submit his total costs, and then we'll be able to present that to council, what the total dollar amounts are.
What is your preference, council?
So
Councillor Harlan?
I'm certainly interested in hearing from the homeowner, but I would also like to know, because I'm no engineer, what is his situation, or how is his situation different from the other situations in which homeowners have had to pay? So I would like to have an understanding of that as well as the total cost.
Yeah, well, and I guess the biggest thing at first was this 20-foot depth, which is unusual for sure. Most lines in town are 6 to 10 feet down, which would have added grossly to the cost, but we got good luck, or he got good luck, or whoever got good luck that day, and that it was a lot shorter. Once they started digging down, they came across it only an 8-foot depth, which is more normal. But he had made arrangements, and so I'm sure there was floating costs and all of that to be able to have contractors ready to do the work, assuming the 20-foot depth.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. Councillor Heenan.
If we're going to investigate this, I would like to have, I don't know if it's called a certified, but I'd like to have a certified report by the engineer or the plumbing people who have done this, so we would at least know what had to be done. It's easy to say, well, you had to do a lateral line. That's easy, but why? What had to be done? That way it gives us a little more, because I'm like Councillor Harland, I'm wondering what the difference is between this situation and the 2 to 5 we do per year that get done this way. So I'd like to see what a professional, with us not being engineers, or I'm not, would be able to look at and then determine what's the difference between this one and some of the others. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Heenan. Councillor Weir.
I'll just make a quick comment. I can see exactly why the costs got out of hand. It takes a much larger excavator to go down 20 feet. He got a big, expensive piece of equipment there. Turns out he didn't need it, and due to faulty information. In complying with WorkSafe New Brunswick on that type of work is personally, I think, a nightmare. But anyway, but I think as the infrastructure gets older within the town, that this is going to become an increasing problem. And it's probably time to start looking at it and formulating a long-term solution to it.
Thank you, Councillor Weir. So as Mr. Spear said, we don't have to make a decision tonight, but we can invite the homeowner in when he has all of the information that we will need to make a decision. Is that your wish, Council? Councillor Harriddle.
Sorry, can you repeat that direction again?
Because we need more information with which to make decisions, we could ask the homeowner in when he has all that information and discuss it with him then, or get the information and then discuss it afterwards.
What would be the goal of that?
If we were to make a motion, right?
Well, there's a two-part process, I guess. Well, if you're willing to support the idea that maybe there should be a sharing of cost, we could just have him submit his costs, and then council could make a decision. He's offered to come in if you so desire. But his thoughts on what the policy is in other towns and what it is here are two different things. I'm not saying he's right or wrong, I'm just going by the bylaw as it's written. So it's a question of you could invite him in to have a discussion, but it's really a question of anything council does from a strict interpretation is going over and above the current bylaw.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. Councillor Harriddle.
Thank you, Your Worship. From my point of view, I mean, we're talking about responsibility and ownership. We're not talking about liability. And I think if we were talking about a legal liability, we'd be having a different conversation. The bylaw exists for a reason. Unless we have an appetite of redoing the bylaw, we have to stick by the words we've agreed to, which is the bylaw. So I have no interest in pursuing this further.
Thank you. All right, so we will. Oh, Councillor Harriddle. Councillor Harland.
Except, did I not understand that there is a feeling that this is a bit different? So I guess I agree that with Councillor Harriddle that we have bylaws and we respect them. However, I thought I was under the understanding that this may be a bit of a different situation. And if that's the case, then I do want to hear from the homeowner, and I do need to understand how it is different.
It's an unusual situation because of the potential depth. It never was, but that was the potential situation. And so his costs are probably going to be in line with other people or other homeowners who have had to do the similar work. From the 2 or 3 costs he said he had, nothing was kind of out of line. One cost that he had mentioned was paving, and I drove by there last week, and there was quite a small cut into the pavement at the end of the day, so our own crew can probably do that. We have asphalt coming down. He'd probably pay for the materials. As you know, we have a little roller that we can use and probably do that patch, which would be significant savings over bringing an asphalting company in from Moncton, Fredericton, whomever. So, you know, that little cut would be within our normal duties. So, if you're okay, I can have a discussion with him, but if he's still interested in sharing the cost more than the asphalt, I guess I need your direction. He could come in, but it's...
Councillor Heenan.
Well, I have a clearer light on this now. I think it's a potential. If we had the 20-foot depth that we had to, I'd say we have something to look at. However, where we were lucky that it didn't have to go the 20 feet, then the potential is gone. So if it's in line with what the other 2 to 5 persons per year pay and it follows our bylaw, then to me it's not a point. That's where I stand. I mean, I have sympathy if it was something totally out of the realm of what everybody else is doing, but if it's the same procedure like I had to do and like many of you have to do in houses that are 50 years old, I mean, I'm sorry, it's just, that's it, and we have a bylaw. So if the potential had been there that we had to dig 20 feet down, then I would say we'd be discussing this. But without that potential, and it's just a normal everyday, and if we're even willing to do the asphalt, because asphalt companies will not come for less than $2,500. So if the asphalt's done, that's a significant kind of a consolation. So that's how I feel. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Heenan. And Councillor Blanchard, do you have a question or a response?
Yeah, just a comment. Thank you. So yeah, just as I understand it, because I've heard a couple of things here, Councillor Hurdle referred to liability, and I guess it's the I don't know if it's an accusation, but it's the position of the homeowner that the failure or the reason for the failure occurred outside of the property line, right, from on the lateral, but beyond their property line. So in the area where we would normally be responsible, is that am I understanding that correctly?
Mr. Spear?
So it's a yes and a no. If that helps you any, but no. So it is underneath our road for sure, but under our bylaws, the homeowner's responsible right to the main, and so that includes from his property line to wherever they connect. So I guess his suggestion is that it was improper installation at the time, which we can't speak to one way or the other because of the time that's lapsed. All I can say is for at least the last 20 years, we've practiced that the homeowner's responsible in new construction and things, but without digging, maybe finding the records back from that long. We might be able to identify something, but chances are very limited that good of records are kept from a contract back in the 60s or 70s.
Right. No, thank you, Mr. Spear. And so, yeah, and I understand the bylaw and the way it's written that they would be responsible up to the main, I guess, of installation. So you're saying is we're not really sure who installed from the main essentially all the way through. It would have likely been the homeowner, but we don't know. It could possibly have been the town. We don't know because we don't have the records. It goes too far back. So it does sound like, according to them, there was some kind of improper installation. It sounds like at least the gaskets and some other things with regards to the level and the lack of gravel around the line, which probably caused it to shift and bend. But so who would normally be like in a new installation like that, Mr. Spear, like within the last 20 to 30 years where we maybe do have records, who's installing it right to our main? Is it the homeowner bringing it right up to the main?
So our practice right now is, yes, so if there's an existing line, then the homeowners are responsible to the main. On some occasions, what we'll have done, so we've done a lot of in-ground infrastructure work over the years. When we're replacing a line, sometimes we'll update the laterals, at least as far as the ditch, not the ditch, but you know what I mean, is open. Yeah. And so they have up to date, at least that far, and go to the property line just as a courtesy, because once you've got the hole dug, as we say, you're already there. You just have to bring in a 2 or 3 inch pipe to finish the job. So when we're doing infrastructure work up and down the streets, we will replace the laterals to the property lines. But for any new work where the lines aren't being opened up, it is the homeowner's responsibility. And as a note, not that it's ever, I don't know if I can recall where a new install has had to be fixed over the last 3 or 4 years, but it is my understanding that once the town puts the lateral in and the homeowner connects under the current bylaw, we would interpret that as it's back to the homeowner's responsibility. But again, I haven't had any experience where a sewer line installed in the last 20 years has failed.
All right, and yeah, okay, so that I guess that kind of answers my question. I guess I wouldn't. It's like you're handing over the ownership of something, but you've installed it improperly, and it fails because of that. You would think some of the onus would revert back to that original. I don't want to call it a transaction. You know what I mean? Though I feel like we would have some responsibility, but if we don't know if the town actually laid, as you said, at least a portion of that line, it could, because we don't have the records to go back that far. It could have been the homeowner at the time installing it. I guess I would have to revert and say that we stick with the bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Blanchard. All right, staff, does that give you enough information?
Yes, Your Worship, I think we've got enough to go back to Mr. Bobby at this
All right.
point. Thank you.
We'll look for information from you at a later date. All right, Public Safety, Counselor Neal, it's all yours now.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is reference number PS 230910, and the subject is the appointment of bylaw enforcement officer Bill Rigby. The background reads that the town of St. Andrews has formally hired Mr. Bill Rigby to become the new fire operator / bylaw enforcement officer. Mr. Rigby started with the town on Tuesday, August 29th, 2023. As part of the hiring process, Mr. Rigby needs to be appointed by the council as a bylaw enforcement officer under the Local Governance Act. So the motion reads that the council of the town of St. Andrews appoints Bill Rigby, bylaw enforcement officer for the town of St. Andrews as per the Local Governance Act, Section 72. And I so move, Your Worship.
Thank you, Counselor Neal. I need a seconder. Counselor Bennett, sorry. All right, any further discussion? This is the Bill Rigby from when I grew up, right? So welcome back, Bill. Just checking up. Any other comments? No? Let's go for the question. All those in favor, say aye. Contrary minded? None, so carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay. And your discussion on the ban of sale of consumer fireworks.
Thank you, Deputy
Mr.
Mayor.
Spear, or Mr.
I'll take this. So recently, I believe it was the town of Hampton in the report, or sorry, town of Rothsay, are looking for the province to ban consumer fireworks for sale in the province. They've had several issues in regards to PTSD, launching of fireworks illegally in suburban areas. It's causing nuisance problems and issues. So they have written to the province to see for recognition if the province would be willing to ban consumer fireworks sales. And I know the town of St. Andrews here has had several issues over the last number of years in regards to launching of fireworks. We've actually had signs put up around the point. We've tried to educate our businesses on the sales of them and to try to regulate people where they can launch them. But we've had numerous calls over the years of both down at the point and on Bar Road, and actually some throughout town. Most recently, we actually had them launched in August off of the wharf, which caused the fire department to go down, and the people were not identifiable from the cameras. But this is an ongoing issue, and it was brought forward to council to see if you wanted to follow the town of Rothsay in their processes with the province. So it's for the council discussion.
Comments, council? Counselor Heenan first.
So this is just the sale of fireworks in like shops in the province of New Brunswick, correct?
Correct. They're looking to, the town of Rothsay is looking to have all sales of fireworks that can be commercially bought by local people or just, people
Like
of New
me.
Brunswick, like ourselves, to ban them from the sales in stores.
Any other comments? Mr. Spear?
And council, I guess our recommendation was we're making it aware. I know the community's interested as well. We're wrapping up to the end of the season. I know there's still another month, but probably won't see as many demonstrations of that. Maybe sit on it till after Christmas. We'll see how much Rothsay has. Someone made a presentation to the local government or one of the agencies, maybe public safety, about them taking a bigger role, because the banning of fireworks is really outside the scope of the Local Governance Act, and so there's a little bit of concern how enforceable it would be. But there's several communities that are interested, and so the town of Quispamsis has formed a committee to look at it. So maybe we did heavy lifting on the tourism accommodation levy a few years ago, one of the first to initiate it, so maybe we'll let another community take at it and see how they do with their bylaw, and then we can revisit it, say, next February or March, to see what council's appetite is, to see how it's proceeded in the other jurisdictions. And then if council feels it is worth pursuing, we still have time to get it through proper readings before before the summer season when it's kind of the highlight of the year for them. But again, just so people are clear, this wouldn't apply to the Canada Day fireworks, and occasionally there's a couple of other institutions who hire professional fireworks operators. In our case, it's the fire department, but others that put them on. Those would still be allowed. But these are specifically for consumer-based fireworks that can be bought at, a handful of stores here and many other stores throughout Charlotte County.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. Councillor Weir?
So through you, Madam Chair, the answer is yes. Our noise bylaw actually regulates that you're not allowed to launch fireworks in town and must be under a permit issued by the Council of the Town of St. Andrews. But unfortunately, due to the sale of them in the community, nobody has ever come for a permit, except for the town.
Yeah, and the other problem we have too, Council, is a lot of people know that if you fire them off the shore, they're outside our jurisdiction to enforce anything. And so some people do that. This will help eliminate those things. It's changed a little bit, but prior to this past January, it was also an issue because people would buy them in town, then take them out into Bayside and Shamcook, and now we can manage that a little better. But even with the noise bylaw, the police will sometimes enforce it. The fire chief, if he sees it, will enforce it. If we get a call, we'll enforce it. But in most cases, by the time these are fired off and we respond, everyone's left town. So it makes it a little harder to enforce. To us, we've tried to do it on an educational basis, but now it seems that the only practical way, if people are concerned, especially they are a bit of a fire concern too, because some people are responsible, but a lot of people aren't. So we'll be firing them close enough to a wooded area that get a stiff breeze. And maybe Councillor Neal wants to speak on this, but even those little ones, I think, can have stuff that are combustible and could, on the wrong day, start a fire.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. Councillor Hurdle?
Thank you. Just on that topic, have we heard from the fire department at all, their point of view, whether prohibiting the sale of, obviously there's a lot of different ways to look at this, but from just the prohibition of the sale of fireworks, if that would have an impact on fire prevention?
Maybe we'd let Councillor Neal.
Councillor Neal, would you like to respond to that?
Yes, thank you. I'm not going to speak on behalf of the fire department, but I will say that they most certainly do pose a fire hazard. They are definitely burning hot enough. Shooting them out over top of the water is one thing. I will mention, again, this past weekend, out walking my dog, I know there was some shot off the vicinity of Champlain Avenue here, right in the subdivision. So to me, that's a heavily wooded area. There's houses there. They do tend, the debris can come back down, still hot. It can land in gutters full of leaves. From my opinion, there is certainly a fire hazard with them. Reading staff's report here, again, I would support the town of Rossley in their quest to have these banned provincially, but again, I think, the town of St. Andrews, I think they've done a great job so far in trying to educate people that they are not allowed to be used within town limits. But again, it's awful difficult when they're being sold, like you said, in numerous places. And it's not advertised at all there that you're not allowed to shoot them off. So from people coming in, tourists, whatnot, again, they have no idea that they're not allowed to shoot them, probably in most cases. The effects with regards to PTSD, other things, again, pets. The big difference to me between this and, say, Canada Day is advertised. You know it's coming. You know what it is. Even some of the other shoots that the fire department has been involved in, again, they're well advertised. Neighbors are not warned, but they're informed. As opposed to this, which is completely random. And like I said, you have no idea where or when they're coming. So we do get calls. I will also mention that a lot of fire calls related to grass fires are from these very things. So I would support the town of Ross's, but like the CEO mentioned, I would let them do the heavy lifting on this for the moment anyway, and if they need a letter of support, I'd be all in favor of that.
Thank you, Councillor Neal. Councillor Heenan. Oops, sorry. And I will come
The
back.
other thing that we're not seeing about this is the public safety. Like, I'm not talking the fire, but I'm talking about the people who are shooting these things off that are inexperienced and don't know what they're doing. I mean, there's a chance for personal safety here as well as the fire issue. And I believe when we have Canada Day, we have professional people doing it, and they understand this. But you take a few people from a bar, come out and decide to shoot off fireworks, they could end up really devastating themselves. And not just the property damage, but personal damage. So I hope that Rosse has a clout. I think that's Mr. Higgs' riding, so anyway, that will do it. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Heenan. Councillor Hurdle.
Thank you. Just one last question, if I may. And again, agree with all the comments at this point. And I would never put revenue over safety, but I think there are 2 retailers in the community that sell fireworks. There's 4 retailers. Do we have a sense of what kind of do we have a sense of the kind of financial impact this would have to the businesses?
None whatsoever.
Could we find out?
Maybe.
Just to know.
We could
Just
ask.
so we know. If it's like $5,
Yeah,
it's
we
not
could
like,
ask,
but if
yeah.
it's, $5,000, it's a different kind of thing that we're doing to somebody. So I just want to know. Thank you.
You're going to research that, Mr. Spear? Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Hurdle. All right.
Thank you. And this is in reference to BTHC 230903. The subject is indulge requests for October the 12th to 15th, 2023. And the background is that the town of St. Andrews has received a request for road closures and additional services from the Indulge events team. Indulge will be running from Thursday, October 12th, 2023 to Sunday, October 15th, 2023, and has been classified as a New Brunswick signature event. The following motion lists the requested support from the town of St. Andrews. And the motion before us is that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews supports the Indulge events taking place from Thursday, October 12th, 2023 to Sunday, October 15th, 2023 with the following. 1, use of Market Square from October 12th to 15th to put up a large tent. This will be used for the Indulge event on the 13th and a concert event on the 14th. 2, request for Water Street closure for Friday, October 13th from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. from Edward Street to Frederick Street. The request also includes the use of barricades for the following: Water Street at Frederick Street, Water Street at King Street, Water Street at William Street, Water Street at Edward Street. For the Indulge Farmers Market on Saturday, October 14th, 2023 from 7:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., closure of King Street between Water Street and Queen Street. 4, that the Public Works team help to string new lights between light pole standards along Water Street. Lights are to be supplied by Indulge. And 5, request for a food truck license as part of the Indulge event on October 13th. And I so move.
Thank you, Councillor Hurdle. I need a seconder. Councillor Blanchard. You didn't think I was looking at you. Thank you. Any further discussion, Council? Councillor Heenan.
Public Works have an issue with stringing the lights. Has that been checked out by town?
Through you, Madam Chair, we're actually waiting on a set of lights from them. The decision is if they are not capable of doing it, we won't string them, but if the request is if we can, we will.
Yes, I just don't want to see them taxed.
Especially when we're a man down. Councillor Hurdle. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Councillor Heenan.
I know we've done something like this in the past, but just in terms of emergency services along Water Street, there's a plan in place for emergency vehicles? Yeah, thank you.
They have their one spot. Do they get another?
Yeah, just at the origin of Indulge, we actually had a couple of things right in the middle of Water Street, and the fire chief said it's probably not a really good idea, and so the organizers have figured it out. So really, there's just barricades in the middle of the street, and there's potentially 1 or 2 food trucks parked in the parking lane. So all it would require is that if it was called, they'd either run through the barricades or someone to move them out of their way to respond, and people certainly would get out of the way of the sirens.
Fire chief.
Through you, Madam Chair, it's no different than Canada Day. In the same process, the streets are clear, and if the vehicles need to get through, they will.
Thank you, Mr. Knopper and Mr. Spear. Does that answer your question, Councillor Hurdle? All right. Any further discussion? If not, then I'll call for the question. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Carried. Thank you, Councillor Hurdle. Just gonna get my right page. All right, number 4, Christmas by the Sea.
And this is in reference to BTHC 230905, and the subject is Christmas by the Sea grant funding request. And the background is that the town of St. Andrews has received a grant funding request from Christmas by the Sea to support initiatives of the 2023 event. The committee is seeking funding of $2,500. Please see the attached letter for further details on the request. Christmas by the Sea has applied for funding to the following: Explore St. Andrews, who has awarded $2,000, Kiwanis Club of St. Andrews, and the Provincial Events Grant. Note that the town of St. Andrews currently has $845 left in the community grant funds. Any additional funds for this event would have to be found within the budget of the town. It should be noted that in addition to this request, the town has budgeted $4,000 for the upkeep and replacement of our own decorations. The motion before us is that the town of St. Andrews supports the grant funding request from the Christmas by the Sea Committee in the amount of, and that is open right now. I guess this is open to debate before we maybe have to make an amendment to what we decide to do at this point. So.
Councillor Hurl, I guess we usually ask that maybe you just put an amount in there as the motion, and then it can be debated afterward, just to keep it
So
more
the
simple
motion
for the
before
minutes.
us is that the town of St. Andrews supports the grant funding request from the Christmas by the Sea Committee in the amount of $2,500. And I so move.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hurdle. Seconder, Councillor Heenan. Now it's open for discussion. Council? My question is, if we only have $845 left, we can budget that much more?
It's up to council. I mean,
Okay.
we'd have to find savings in other spots, and I'm sure we're going to have some savings this year. So if council feels strongly about that full amount, I'm sure we can support it, but that's up to you.
Do they have a oh, sorry, Councillor Hurdle. I'm sorry. Councillor Harlan?
I'm just wondering, do we know how much was requested from Kiwanis and from Provincial Events Grant, and when the decisions will be made for those? I know. Sorry.
So 1,500 or 2,000 is all related
Okay.
to the, yeah, for the,
And I think the province might be around 2,500.
2,500 from the
Okay.
province.
Thank you.
Councillor Harlan?
Do you know when a decision will be made on those?
Kiwanis, they're not open yet. They did give last year.
Okay.
And the invitation was just applied for with Explore New Brunswick. So I don't know what that, their deadline is kind of depends on when you apply.
Okay.
Through you, Madam Chair, the invitation they'll probably hear by the end of October. It's done on a quarterly basis, so.
Okay. Thank you for that information, Mr. Knopper and Vicky Hogarth. Do you have a question, Councillor Blanchard?
Just a comment, I guess. I'm actually supportive of this. I think it's certainly a worthwhile event. It's it's outside of our normal season. It's sort of that the holiday season time. It's sort of that separate window where retailers and businesses in the area can add a little bit to their yearly total. So I'm supportive of it. I think the events that they've had previously, I think it continues to build, and I think it can only get better. So I would be supportive of the town helping to fund that and to encourage more growth at that time of the year outside of our main season.
Thank you, Councillor Blanchard. Councillor Hurdle?
Thank you, Your Worship. I mean, I want to support this, similar to what Councillor Blanchard said. But I guess when I think back to when we sat down and set aside funding for projects like this in the previous budget session, we set aside a certain amount of money and no more that we thought would be reasonable to support community initiatives in the area. And then we're down to the last $845 of that. So what I would possibly like to see rolling forward is I guess similar to what Councillor Blanchard said. Like, I really think that this is important that we highlight this time of the year, and if there's an appetite among other councillors to do that, I would support it. But I'm just concerned about our resources to do so. But I think maybe for next year, following years, we do set aside maybe a subset of the budget to look at holiday funding and what that could do. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of international attention. Even, if I can say so, even films are being brought to the area because of how beautiful this town looks that time of the year. And I do think it's really important for us to pursue that. But I think that we did make a decision this time last year to say this much and no more. And now that there was a request, no matter, I think that we really want to see it happen, but we're just at the bottom of what we've given out. So, I don't know. That's kind of where my thoughts are on it. Like, of course, there's going to be a lot of community things that are going to come to us if it's not actually, like, if it's a bottomless pocket that we can reach into, that we're going to want to do. But again, we did set limits around this for a reason. So I'm just kind of torn in two different directions. But thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hurdle. Councillor Heenan?
Councillor Hurdle, would you be prepared to split some of this? I don't see us really giving the 2,500. Like, I think that's, I'm sorry, I mean, I think it's a worthwhile cause, but I just think that I agree totally with you, but I also agree with the fact that it's a good cause. So I wouldn't be opposed to, like, hitting in the 15 to 2,000 range, but the 25 is too much for my budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Heenan. Any other comment? Councillor Bennett, sorry.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I guess from the little bit of experience that I have on this council so far, I've seen a lot of money spent in the name of tourism. In this situation, I kind of see how beautiful downtown is during the Christmas season and how that affects mostly the locals. So I guess I kind of see this money as money that's not spent in the name of tourism, but spent for locals. And I guess anything that we could do to help in that festive season and to make downtown what it is during Christmas, I'd 100% support whatever we can do to help them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bennett. Any, Councillor Harlan?
So I would agree with Councillor Hurdle's comments that on a go-forward basis, we need to be thinking about this as part of our submissions earlier on in the year. However, at the same time, I also know that there are late requests that come about because groups haven't been organized or it hasn't been fully understood in terms of what the costs are going to be or how large an event is going to be. So I see this as an exception that I would really like to support. I would agree with Councillor Heenan that we potentially can't afford the 2,500 this year, but I certainly would be very supportive of something in the area of 1,500 to 2,000.
I guess Councillor Heenan and Harlan maybe can make an amendment to the $2,500 would be the first start to see if you want to lower it or not. If you don't, that's fine too. We can stick with the 2,500, but in order to reduce the amount, there has to be an amendment to the original motion.
Councillor Blanchard. Hello.
Thank you. I'd make an amendment then. I'd make an amendment to change the amount of funding from 2,500 to 2,000 to see if that has some support.
Okay, and I need a seconder for that. Councillor Harland. So we have reduced the amount from 2,500 to, my microphone is on. Sorry. I turned it on. It's not working, or am I not speaking into it properly?
It's working, your Deputy Mayor.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so we have reduced the funding from 2,500 to 2,000, and it's moved by Councillor Blanchard and Councillor Harland. So we'll vote on that amendment first. All those in favor, say aye. Contrary minded? So the amendment is carried. Now, with the original motion, it will change to 2,000 with the amendment in there, Councillor Hurdle and Councillor Heenan. So we will vote on that. All those in favor of that, helping the Christmas by the Sea grant funding request, say aye. Carried again. $2,000 instead of $2,500, because that's the amended amount. So it's carried unanimously. All right. Slowly but surely, we're getting there. And now we're moving on to Councillor Gumashel, who is not able to be with us. So I asked Councillor Bennett to do his portfolio, which is the Recreation and Community Services. Councillor Bennett, thank you for
Thank you, Deputy
volunteering.
Mayor. Reference number RCS 230909, submitted for Councillor Gumashel, subject to W.C. O'Neill Arena Complex rental rates, 2023, 2024. The background reads, the Town of St. Andrews is seeking Council's approval of the 2023 and 2024 W.C. O'Neill Complex rental rates. Provided with this report is a copy of the proposed rates for the 2022-2023 season. Council increased the ice rental rates by 3%. Staff are proposing the following changes. Increase ice rental rates by 3%. Increase the damage deposit on room rentals from $100 to $200. Increase wedding packages from $800 to $1,200. The changes to these rates have been reviewed by staff and compared to other municipalities within Charlotte County. These rates are on par with other rental rates within the area. The motion reads that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews approves the W.C. O'Neill Arena Complex rental rates for 2023-2024, moved by myself, Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Councillor Bennett. I need a seconder. Councillor Heenan. Any further discussion, Council? Councillor Harland.
Just a question, Chris or Paul, with respect to the increase on the damage deposit, do we get many damages to rooms?
Well, I'd say it only takes one, but the problem is the $100 isn't sufficient if staff have to come in and clean up on their days off, and so that's kind of in line. It is returned if everything's left fine and dandy, but there's been occasional where it might have not been severe damage, but there's still like it's supposed to be as you found it type of policy, and
Right.
lots of times it's after the party was done, they packed up and left, and we had to, have staff come in the next day and pick up garbage and wash everything down and to proceed.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. Councillor Neal, sorry.
Yeah, just a quick question as well, and I think I know the answer to this, but the rates that are listed on the ice rental fee schedule, those are per hour of ice time, I assume? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. Thank you, Mr. Councillor Neal. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary minded? Carried unanimously. And we're on to the dog park, which, Mr. Spear, do you want to lead it or start it off?
Thank you, Your Worship, or Deputy Worship. So we had a presentation by representatives of the Dog Park Committee about moving the dog park to between Cemetery Road and the ball field. Staff still doesn't think that's an ideal location. I know we talked about slope back and forth. I won't get too deep into that, but again, it's for mobility concerns of the owners, not the pets themselves. It could make a challenge for mowing. Parking isn't the finest at this location. I'm just concerned people will park, along Cemetery Road and walk up as opposed to driving to the back of the ball field and parking. It tends to be a Charlotte County thing, not a St. Andrews thing. People will park closest to the door. The other thing is they were hoping to make it a four-season facility. I have concerns again with the slope, 'cause, that water will be running from snow melt and stuff, and that it could create problems. So then we had correspondence from a neighbor who had some concerns. So what I'm asking is that they're hoping to have an answer like tonight. I'm saying instead of saying yes or no, we just say it's possible, because the funding's not in place this year from either their contribution, even what they've recommended, or the town hadn't set aside, and give us some time. We've identified 2 or 3 other locations. One actually came up as a surprise today that I got a possible yes to. So it's going to save. It's not going to be the Harry Mallory. It's places that are, that are a similar type of situation. Give us the opportunity to look at those over the early winter, that we'd set aside funding in the budget for it, and then just get ready to install it early spring once we've identified a prime location. I'm saying, not to say a hard yes, but not to say a hard no either, just as a potential maybe for this particular location, and that we can express that to the dog park committee as well, that we're actively looking for something that's going to reduce the cost substantially, while at the same time maybe putting it in a location that's a little more favorable than what we think it is at the current proposed location.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. Council, comments? Okay, so we just, Councillor Neal, sorry, I can't
Just
see.
a question.
Slow
Again,
wave.
With regards to the other sites that have been identified, do we have any idea when those might be presented?
How about we'll say November?
After budget?
Yeah, well, again, we can set the budget aside, and we've got 2 or 3 of them already in mind. We have to do a couple of conversations in partnerships with private landowners, but a couple of them have expressed interest, so we'll have a discussion with them. And again, it's kind of ideal as far as grass not needing to do much except set up a fence, as opposed to our original location, which required tearing down some trees and bringing in fill and building it in a forested area. So it just gives us some time to look at that, make the measurements, and come back with our recommendations to the committee too. Let them have their input to see what their favoring is, and again with the community, because the community, one of the best or the favorite parts of the Harry Mallory was it was kind of the furthest away from any personal residence for any early dog walkers, so to speak, or any feisty dogs at 6 and 7 in the morning. And so we'll probably have to do at least a little bit of community consultation, but if you just leave that with us for a couple of months, it'll give us an opportunity to make sure we have our ducks in a row, and for us to look at a couple of other locations, revisit it, and then we'll let you guys know. Maybe we'll say the second meeting in November. We've already hopefully passed the budget by then, and then be a little less stuff on our table, and still plenty of time to make a decision before the the spring construction.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. Councillor Hurdle.
Thank you. I just want to say a couple things. I'm always a big believer in paying for something once and doing it right the first time and not doing it wrong twice. I do know that there are users who, if they don't feel safe on their feet or stable on their feet, that we're going to be excluding them in the current location. But at the same time, no dog park at all excludes everybody from it. So I do think that we're at the point now where we have to show the committee that we're supporting, we're moving with it as fast as we possibly can. So if we can, like you say, get that report done by November and, show the committee that we're working with them and not actively working against them, because we have been sort of dragging our heels, I think, a little bit in terms of, moving forward with it. And I think that we just need, the community needs one, dog owners need one. But just we want to make sure that we're not excluding anybody from the format that it is. So thank you.
Councillor Heenan.
I totally support Councillor Hurdle. I think that we're dragging our heels a bit. I'm not, I'd like to see us get our move on. I had a meeting with a physician in town who was, a physician who was into the slope, and she said it's absolutely fine. She has done bone structure, et cetera, so she and her husband are both have disabilities and find the slope is not an issue. I'm not in support of any location myself. I'm just in support of getting us going on this because we're running behind. I mean, St. Stephen, St. George, everybody's got a dog park and we don't. And it's time, like, you know, we've been rolling around this for a year, and it's time that we start lighting a fire under it and see if we can get a location nailed down. And that's just my feeling. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Heenan. And it's been more than a year because we've been talking about this dog park in several places. But I thank staff for bringing it forward, and we'll find us a new location. So I hope that's appropriate to all dog lovers. I'm a cat lover myself. Oh, Councillor Neal.
Yes, thank you. I've had the opportunity to walk that proposed site numerous times now. Again, I think when it was presented, I spoke in favor of it. Honestly, I think it is a fairly decent site. The way that they proposed it split between the two separate areas, to me, made perfect sense. The area for the small dogs, again, is much more flat. With regards to parking, I believe they did present some options along the entrance to the ball field, where there is, I would say, at least room for probably 6 to 8 vehicles. Some of the concerns that we had heard with regards to runoff and whatnot, to me, I can understand where they're coming from, but the difference between that site and where it was originally supposed to be at the back of the ball field, again, the runoff is exactly the same. A quick question for staff. Again, when we're looking at alternative areas, I know the original plan in the back there, the wooded area, again, was going to be extremely costly, but have we considered like the area just the back of the parking lot? There's quite a bit of space there already, which is honestly is already grassing in, so clearly it's not being used for parking. Just looking at it quickly the other day, it looked like it would take minimal preparation for perhaps, again, one section of this dog park, and perhaps there's an area next to the building where, again, the smaller one could be located. It's just a thought.
No, we can revisit that. I'm up there very rarely for soccer night, so I'm not entirely sure what the parking situation is. I guess it's too late to find out now because soccer's over for the season, but I'll talk to some of the users and see. I hear you, and if we can even bring 50 or 60% of it out, that'll save a tremendous amount on the cost.
Through
Thank
you,
you.
Your Worship,
Oh,
one thing to
sorry.
note is that we are building a trail through that area as well, so
Yeah,
that'll also have
that's
to
true.
be reviewed based on locations of the trail, as a reminder.
Yeah, and my understanding was that trail is basically going to be where it's located currently, right?
Yeah, but there's a connection trail that's going to be going along the driveway there, but I think it can all work out.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. Thank you, Councillor Neal. So we'll wait to hear back from staff regarding this by November. All right, moving right along. Councillor Bennett, your last one.
Thank you again, Your Worship. Reference number RCS 230913, submitted for Councillor Gumashell again, subject appointment of Jeremiah Kerr to the Trail Advisory Committee. Background reads, the Trail Advisory Committee has received a request from Jeremiah Kerr, resident of Bayside, to participate on the Trail Advisory Committee. Currently, Mr. Kerr sits on the Planning Advisory Committee for the town. Mr. Kerr is an avid trail walker and is interested in providing input on trail projects for the town. The Trail Advisory Committee has supported Mr. Kerr's request and would welcome him to the committee. For Mr. Kerr sits on the committee for Mr. Kerr to sit on the committee, he must be appointed by the council. Note that there is space on the committee as per the Trail Advisory Committee terms of reference. So the motion reads that the council of the town of St. Andrews appoints Jeremiah Kerr to the Trail Advisory Committee for a term of 2 years, and I so motion.
Seconder, please. Oh, Counselor Hurdle, sorry. Any more discussion, or we're just going to go right to the question? All those in favor? Aye. And contrary-minded? Carried unanimously. All right. All right. Now, Planning and Economic Development and Counselor Heenan.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. Do I have a thing to put into this?
Not till the
minute?
third one.
On third reading, okay. Sorry about that, thank you. It's reference number PED 230510. Amendment Z22-05 to the zoning bylaw Z22-01 for PID 013-23591, Dominique Belanger and Michael Elisa Van de Capuel. Second and third reading. At the June 5th, 2023 regular council meeting, the council was presented with an amendment bylaw number Z22-05, a bylaw to amend bylaw number Z22-01, being the zoning bylaw for the town of St. Andrews. The purpose of this amendment is to rezone PID 013-23591 at 126 and 135 Reed Avenue for Dominique and Michael, for serviced residential SR to multiple residential MR for the purposes of developing a rooming house. The following steps have been taken. Public presentation on June 5th, 2023. Obtain the views of the Planning Advisory Committee, June 21st, 2023. Public hearing of objections, August the 8th, 2023. First reading, August 8th, 2023. Note that there is one letter of concern was submitted, see attached, to the council for review. Staff feel that the current bylaws of the town will be able to deal with any enforcement issues that might arise. So the action is that the council of the town of St. Andrews grants leave for the second reading to amendment bylaw number Z22-05, a bylaw to amend bylaw number Z22-01, being the zoning bylaw for the town of St. Andrews for PID 013-23591 at 126 and 134 Reed Avenue for Dominique and Michael to move from service residential zone to multiple residential zone, MR1 zone, for the purpose of a rooming house. And I so move this, Your Worship. Aye.
Just a point of order, your Deputy Mayor, your microphone's
Phone is not on, sorry.
Thank you.
Counselor Heenan and Counselor Bennett were first and seconded, and it was carried unanimously, and I will read it by title only, and do it now with my microphone on. Thank you very much, Counselor Blanchard. Bylaw number Z22-05, a bylaw to amend bylaws number Z22-01, being the zoning bylaw for the town of St. Andrews, being enacted by the council of the town of St. Andrews as follows. 1, removing the definition of boarding house. 2, by amending the definition of bed and breakfast. 3, by amending the definition of family. 4, by amending the definition rooming house. 5, by amending section 4.1.9A, home-based businesses. Number 6, amend section 4.1.11 to read rooming houses. 7, amend sections 4.1.13 to read standards for apartment dwellings, senior citizens housing, residential care facilities, and rooming houses. 8, amend section 4.1.14 to read amenities, space requirements for apartment dwellings, senior citizens housing, residential care facilities, and rooming houses. 9, amend section 4.2B to read to read subsection section 4.1.9, a home-based business. 10, to amend the section 4.41B2 to read, subject to section 4.19, a home-based business. 11, amend section 4.5.1A 8 to read rooming house, subject to sections 4.11, 4.1.11, 4.1.13, and 4.1.14. And 12, to amend the section 4.51B1 to read, if the main use is listed under subsection 4.1.5A1 to A4, subject to section 4.1.9, a home-based business other than a bed and breakfast. 13, amend section 4.5.3 MR1 zone lot requirements to read minimum lot frontage. Do I have to read the, oh, yes, thank you. 14, bylaw number Z22-01, the zoning bylaw for the town of St. Andrews is amended by changing the zone as the following zoning map attached to the said bylaw as scheduled. A, therefore, for the lands shown on Schedule 1, attached hereto and forming a part hereof from Service Residential SR Zone to MR1 Multiple Residential Zone. And this was presented the 5th day of June for the public presentation. Public hearing of objections was the 8th day of August 2023. Read for the first time the 8th day of August 2023, and read for the second time this day, the 5th day of September 2023. Thank you. And now, Counselor Heenan, you get to do it all over
Your
again.
Worship, we're going to, prior to third reading, there is a term and condition
Yes.
that needs to be added. So if you're okay, I'll read out the motion and you can.
Yes.
Okay.
So it says. So the motion would be that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews sets that all parking located at 126 and 134 Reed Avenue, PID 013233591, be placed in the backyard of the property.
That the council of, oh, I so move.
Counselor Heenan moves. We need a seconder.
Councilor Bennett.
Counselor Hurdle, because you did the first one, Counselor Bennett. I'm going to be fair. Any other further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Contrary minded? Carried unanimously, and I got to read this again by title. So bear with me.
Deputy
people.
Mayor? We still have to do third reading, so that was only a
Oh,
term
that
and
was only
condition.
the second reading.
So now Councillor Heenan needs to read the third motion.
Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Knopper. Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you, thank you.
Motion that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews grants leave for third and final reading to the amendment bylaw number Z22-05, a bylaw to amend bylaw number Z22-01, being the zoning bylaw for the Town of St. Andrews for PID number 013233591 at 126 and 134 Reed Avenue for Dominique and Michael, to move from service residential SR zone to multiple residential MR1 zone for the purposes of a rooming house, and I so move.
Thank you, Counsel. Thank you, Counselor Heenan. Seconder, Counselor Neal. All right. Any further? Please. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. And contrary minded? Carried unanimously.
So Deputy
Now
Mayor,
I have to-
prior to reading third reading, just read the title of the bylaw. That's all you have to do.
Oh, thank you. That mayor left on a good night, right? Bylaw number Z22-05, a bylaw to amend bylaws number Z22-01, being the zoning bylaw for the town of St. Andrews. And that's all I have to, and it's read for the, I gotta turn it over, hold on. It's read for the third time on the 5th day of September 2023. Oh, Councillor Hurdle?
Just a point of order, we lost Councillor Weir, but while we were voting, do we have to go back and revote?
In the minutes, we will make a note that he had left, and we'll just record it as 6-0.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haining. Did you say we have to do it again? No. Thank you. Any new business?
No, I have another one, Your Worship.
Oh, we have one more. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, Your Worship.
Just gonna do it. All right.
Okay. Council, Your Worship. PED 230615, Amendment Z22-04 to the zoning bylaw Z22-01 for PID 0132524, Stonewall Place, Evans Land Development Limited, first reading. The town of St. Andrews has received an application request for rezoning from the SR Serviced Residential Zone to MR2 High Density Multiple Residential Zone to facilitate the development of an apartment complex subdivision at PID 0132524, Stonewall Place, Evans Land Development Limited. See attached report from the Southwest New Brunswick Service Commission. Steps in the process. Public presentation was done on June the 5th, 2023. Public presentation by the developers June 19th, 2023. Public hearing of objections July the 4th, 2023. Obtain the views of the PAC June 21st, 2023. A traffic study for this area of the town is being conducted by CBCL Limited, and results will be provided to council for consideration. Provided with this report is a copy of the Planning Advisory Committee's view. Note that prior to the third reading, staff will provide council with a subdivision agreement and a development agreement for this proposed development. The action is, motion, that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews grants leave for the first reading to amendment bylaw Z22-04, a bylaw to amend bylaw number Z22-01, being the zoning bylaw for the Town of St. Andrews for PID 0132524, Stonewall Place, Evans Land Development Limited, rezoning from SR Serviced Residential Zone to MR2 High Density Multiple Residential Zone to facilitate the development of an apartment complex / subdivision. I so move.
And I need a seconder, please.
Counselor.
Counselor Harland. Further discussion? Okay. then I
Deputy Mayor, you have Councillor Blanchard.
shall- Counselor Blanchard, sorry, thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just a quick question. I thought we had, I know we had received a presentation on this project before on this plot of land. It was sort of my recollection that it was more, they were looking more at townhouses or something like that, but maybe, am I remembering a different project then perhaps? Because this is talking about an apartment complex.
Mr. Spear, or,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, that was the original presentation, but then Mr. Turner came in a couple of months later, and they've determined that instead of single-family residences, it'd be better to go with apartment complexes to meet their business model. So that was presented, I want to say July 4th, yeah, and the amended one. However, this is just first reading, and prior to second reading, we'll aim to have a formalized development subdivision agreement, which will give you much further detail to base, but to show council's desire to at least show to get this project for consideration, they asked that first reading would be made, and then they'll start to present more. We're actively starting the process for the development agreement and subdivision agreement, and won't want to speak for the clerk, but probably by the end of October, we should have something for council's consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. Councillor Heenan.
Yes, Your Worship. I just a couple of points. I remember we did the presentation, and I remember that very well. But we're just in the consideration zones right now. I just want to make sure that that's where we're at. So, having the first reading just allows the process to begin. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Correct. That
Yes.
shows council's attention to at least
Yeah.
support it initially, that it's not a hard no, because for all the design and stuff requires
Okay.
significant investment.
Thank you very much. I just wanted a clarifying point because I'm sure there's people that wish to know. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Councillor Neal?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple quick questions. Again, I had the same concern with some of the conceptual drawings that were thrown in there, and again, I understand from staff that I'm guessing nothing's set in stone here, but again, the representation of 3-story buildings gives me a bit of concern. The one question I had was with regard to the traffic study. Do we have any indication when we might be receiving that from CBCL?
Yes,
Mr.
it should be
Spear?
by the end of the month, early October. The traffic count was done in 2 phases. One was pre-Labor Day, and one was when the kids started back in school. So they'll probably do that second batch in the next week or so, and then finalize the report.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. Any other questions, Councillor Neal? Anybody else? Then we'll go for the question. Oh, is that you, Councillor? No, he's just raising. All right. Ready for the question? All those in favor, say aye. Contrary minded? Carried unanimously, and I'll read it by the whole thing.
Read by title.
Read it by
Uh,
title.
Deputy Mayor, there is a way through the Local Governance Act, as long as it's posted accordingly, every
Okay.
bylaw can be read just by title. So
Thank you.
I'll make sure every posting is done appropriately.
Thank you very much, because it's getting towards the end. Okay. Bylaw number Z22-04, a bylaw to amend bylaw number Z22-01, being zoning bylaw for the town of St. Andrews. And so I don't have to read anything else.
Just that it was read the first day.
It's read the first time on September the 5th, 2023. All right. All right, council, we finally are here. Sorry to be so long. The mayor's much better at this than I am. All right, so we are now at new business. No new business? No new business. Now we are at question period. Any questions, Mr. Knopper, from the audience? Okay, would you come to the podium and, would you please come to the podium, state your name and your question, please?
You probably anticipate what I'm going to ask questions about. My name is Kara Harvey. I am the committee lead for the dog park. So I came to hear, your answers and opinions today based on the proposal that Mark Finley and I gave August 9th, I believe it was. So this project has been going on for about 10 years. I know we said one, it's been more than one, and that is true of this particular committee. But actually, since Inga kind of brought it in front of the town, it's been about 10 years. We've gone through three committee leaders, all three of which have moved away, and their dogs will not be able to benefit from the efforts that they've made because this project has taken so long. Then most recently, so when our previous committee leader, Kate, left, Mark, I believe, met with you, Chris, on June, I think it was 29th, and spent an hour looking for other alternative locations. And we didn't hear anything after that. And then so because of that, Mark and I took the initiative to go and try to find another location and presented that and thought, we're just trying to make some progress. And basically at each turn, we keep hearing, we'll work on it. We'll find out, we'll take a look, we'll come back to you, we'll take a look, we'll come back to you. And each time that happens, it adds a month, it adds 4 months, and then everyone's gone for summer and vacation, and it can't get approved until everyone's can hear it. And so basically what I am looking for is a firm commitment from council, if that's possible, on when, not necessarily which place is going to be, but when we can get some proposed locations, because we've been hearing that there's going to be more proposed locations discussed, specifically, like in specific areas, since June. And each time, every month that we're here, we're told, in the next council meeting, we'll have some for you. The next council meeting, we'll have some for you. So I don't mean to put anybody I don't mean to be offensive or anything, but we're really running out of steam. We started this about a year ago with 10 committee members who were very active and very strong, and everyone was working to plan events. And now we're down to about 3 who are actively working on it. Mark recently moved away, which is really unfortunate. He was a really active member. And so we're losing more momentum by the day. And so I'm just asking for your understanding on that. Because we're only so much we can do. And some of you were very supportive tonight, and I appreciate that. The things like parking, for example, we did go over that really specifically in our proposal, that there were 6 to 8 parking spaces just adjacent to the the soccer field. And so I don't know, I'm just hoping to get some more specific kind of benchmarks on when we can hear about places that are available, and just so that we've had people say, we want to donate, but we're not going to donate until you have a more concrete plan. And that's very fair. These include big sponsors like Pet Value that I mentioned. They're not going to give us a cent until we at least have a location. We saw St. Stephen, they donated $20,000. So, I think it's the least we can do to at least come up with a location after 10 years of working at this.
Yeah, it's
Thank
been
you.
a long time. Mr. Spear has stated that by the end of November, right?
Pardon?
Mr. Spear has said that at the end of November,
Okay.
we will be given sites and we will be inviting you in
Okay.
to discuss them then.
Okay,
So the end of
perfect.
November, and I'd
Can
like
we
to
have
see
that
it.
confirmed record
yeah.
show, end of November?
Yeah, it's
We
in
will
there.
have sites.
He did say
to
that.
discuss.
Did you, the end of November or November-ish?
Yeah, I guess, Ms. Harvey, too, all the assumption on putting it in November was that the dog park committee probably wouldn't have its funding in place in time for installation this fall.
I think so right now, we sit, as of my last request, which was earlier, end of last week, it was at 15,000. The event that we have planned, the auction next week, we already have over $3,000 in donations with gifts and gift cards from local businesses that we're going to be auctioning off. And last year it came in pretty much dead at value. So we're anticipating by the end of next week being at 18,000. And we actually had another business offer to basically contribute the next $2,000 if it came to that. And then as we continue to raise more, we would reimburse them for their basically mini loan. So just to make this happen, just they're recognizing the work and hours we're putting in. It's been, for me, for the last probably 2 months, I've been spending at least 4 hours a day on this, trying to speak with individual businesses. They need a letter for a donation, so I go back and then they're closed, and it's been a lot of work. So, and it's the same for all of our volunteers. So I'm basically just looking for something to take back to the rest of the committee members and the volunteers to say that we have a commitment for other locations to be looked at a certain time. So end of November,
early
November?
November meeting, yeah.
Early November? Okay.
We're
Identified-
just into budget right now.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're still discussing with a couple of private landowners.
Okay.
It's been the trouble. It's
Okay.
the town-owned land, except for the two places at Harry
Yeah.
Mallory. The rest have kind of been put out there and beaten to death for different reasons.
Okay.
And so we've gone to external landowners to see if there's something that can be reached out there.
Okay.
But you have to,
Yeah.
it's not as simple for council if they like the
I know.
location and
I
all
know.
that stuff. So
I know.
that's also,
Yeah.
it hasn't been forgotten. It's just,
Yeah.
it's a bit of a time-consuming
I'm-
process for us as well.
I know. I remember, Mark sat down for an hour to look at potential locations in June. So I was hoping by October, September, there would have been a bit more dedication put to that. But everybody's project thinks that theirs is going to be the one that gets looked at, and I recognize that. But yeah, that's all. Also, really happy to hear about the fireworks. Obviously, I'm pro animals. There's lots of cases of horses breaking legs, and my own personal dog on Canada Day, I take her out of town because that's planned, so that's perfect. But when it happens in the main town, I have to medicate her almost every weekend. So I was really happy to hear about the firework. I don't know if I can authorize
Well, I don't
that.
know. I was going to ask if I could ask
Yeah.
a question, if that's all right.
Yeah.
Just
Councillor
curious.
Hurley?
Thank you. I'm just curious, since some of the correspondence that you've received that we've seen as well, there's some, requests from guests at the hotel that bring pets and
Yeah.
dogs to the area. They don't have a place to take their dog.
Yeah.
The hotel has changed owners.
Yeah.
In the process, have you approached them, or have we approached
Yeah.
them with the new owners to see what their appetite is?
I don't know if you have. I have, and other committee kind of chairs have as well. And under the new ownership, I was told when I approached them, for the auction donation, they said that they cannot provide monetary donations under the new management policy, but they're able to donate items. So they are going to donate an item to the auction, but they're not able to donate a monetary value, which is unfortunate because that was a huge part of why we put it or we're thinking of having it over in that location, was to partner with them. But yeah, I guess that's your answer. I don't know if the town had approached them, if it might be a different.
Just in terms of land, more than donation or
Yeah.
gift, but have you talked to them about land at all for potential
I
use?
haven't talked to them about land, no. Because, yeah. So I don't know if you were
Myself
able.
and the mayor have reached out to them,
Okay.
and they're open to the idea. But it's with all the transitions, they
Okay.
haven't gotten more specific than that, and so that's
Okay.
trying to see. They have vast land holdings kind of throughout the town, and so
Mm-hmm.
we're going to have a discussion. There's a grand reopening later in the month.
Okay.
In which some of their senior management will be in town, and I'm hoping to sit down with them and see
Perfect.
if they have a true or what their interest is, or if it's compatible with what they
Okay.
think.
Yeah, no, that would be great. So just, yeah, even to have that considered and to have that discussion is progress, so.
And honestly, the dog park, for the size it needs, I'm not
Yeah.
discouraging that. It's so big, sometimes you put it down and say, oh, this looks good. Then you take out a tape measure and says, whoops. It needs to be big. I'm not saying
Yeah.
that. It's a big structure, and some places it looks like it'll fit. It just doesn't. So that was a bit of a challenge for us, too. We've identified a couple of spots. Then when we had staff measure it out, we realized it was insufficient for your
Okay.
needs.
And what was the date you said you didn't think that we would have had met our goal? Our current goal is $20,000. You said you didn't think, I think that we, with 99.9% certainty, will be at that. We already have blocks in place to get us to 18, and so I think the other two, once we get there, is going to be easier to come by.
Okay, why don't you let us know when you at least meet that initial goal? I'll work my best, but I'm off vacation for 10 days after tomorrow.
Okay.
But maybe by the October early meeting, if I can, get out the two or
Okay.
three identified locations and try to
be
figure it
great.
out. If you have that location, again, it's finally up to council. If we hadn't budgeted for our portion this year, but
Okay.
for the sake of what you're talking about, we
Yeah.
could probably come up with our portion this year, if
Okay.
need be.
Yeah, so I'll, I guess, action items, I'll keep working towards getting us to that 20,000, and hopefully early October, we can discuss locations a bit more. Does that work? Okay. Thank you so much for your time.
Counselor Neal has a question, sorry.
I was just wondering if you had any indication from your fencing contractors of how quickly they'd be able to.
That was
sort
kind of
provide
Mark's
fencing.
realm was the contact with Fundy Fencing, and he lives in St. John area, so I can contact them for sure. It would be amazing if it could be done. I'll communicate that. Once I get a quote, I'll circulate that around.
Thank you.
Thanks, or a timeline. Thanks.
Thank you very much, and we hope to have a dog park in St. Andrews area. So, any others? Please, at the podium.
Hi, I'm Caroline Mullenkamp at 31 Cemetery Road. I did send you a letter, and I appreciate that you guys are busy, and I hope you did have time to look at it. Through the course of that letter preparation, I came to realize how much work you all put together and do for the town. And I really wanted you to know that I appreciate the tremendous responsibility you all have. The town has a long history, and your actions will be part of that history. And I just wanted to express that I understand that you do a lot. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and I appreciate it. My letter was written both from my personal standpoint as well as trying to be helpful. I feel that it's important that new things are brought to the town. In this instance, I felt that what was being proposed was something that would affect me personally, and so I had to express that to you. It doesn't mean that I am anti the dog park. I think that there are places for it. I think the place that was currently put as an option was not appropriate. And I listed multiple reasons that I felt that way. I do have a question that's related to achieving that, is I still do not understand what is wrong with the water tower land that was originally asked for by the group. And from all intents and purposes, when you drive by, it looks perfect. I understand that there may be some future need for that land going forward, but in the near term, being 3 to 5 years, it would seem that it would be a perfect place to build this dog park. It's an affordable place from the group's standpoint of what they can afford. It would be something that could be achieved within weeks, given if the fencing is available. It's not a long-term build. The money that is being spent to build that park at a site like that is the money goes directly into the use of the park. It's not a lot of money spent on groundworks. It's not a lot of money spent on things that really have nothing to do with the people that are trying to build a dog park. It's, they need a flat place and they need a fence. I still don't understand why there's a reluctance to look at that site, maybe not as a permanent site forever and ever, but it gives the opportunity to get a site up. It gives the opportunity to step back from it and have a look at how it's used. It's given the opportunity to have a look at how useful it is to the town, and also how hard it is to maintain it. Maybe it's becomes more work than it's worth, or maybe it's very simple. It also gives you time to look for other sites or other land. It also gives the dog park group time to continue fundraising, should they find that necessary. If the site proves to be needed in 3 or 5 years, that gives them 3 or 5 years to keep ticking away at raising money. And maybe they can be more proactive in the sense of telling people, we've achieved our goal, but we still need to keep raising money because we might need $3,000 every year going forward for whatever reason. Personally, I think that site offers a good opportunity to get more corporate sponsorship because it's a prominent site. Even if you're not a dog park user, you drive by that site. I think what was being proposed out in kind of a park-like thing, you're only going to see that advertising if you use it. It doesn't mean that you don't have pets. It means you don't use a dog park. And I think that they might have better luck attracting a big dollar sponsor by saying you're going to be on the main route into the town. So that's all I wanted to say. Again, thank you. I think you guys do a great job. I think it's a lot of work, and it takes a lot more time than anybody would have guessed. So, thank you.
Mr. Spear, do you want to respond to that as to why?
Well, we can revisit that site. So the problem with up there is all the main lines are coming up and are fairly shallow for valves and stuff that are at ground level. To shut off the various feeds coming into the water reservoirs. And there's actually 2 water reservoirs up there. There's the steel one with the mural. But over to the right, there's one that you only see a roof. That's a concrete reservoir, and that's almost as big as the one that you see that's above ground. And so there's piping all over the place that doesn't make it ideal to be driving traffic and stuff over. We can revisit it, and there's also an allocation of the land for another thing that's kind of in the background, but it seems to be less in the background, to be honest. So that was one of the alternate locations. I was going to go revisit that with the engineers and just to see what is the safe zone to install something and see if we can revisit that. But it's, when I've been up there before, there's valves, so the pipes obviously are buried 8 to 10 feet, but there's valves to all these pipes that are spidering all over the area.
Yeah, I
that are at
appreciate
ground
that,
level.
but as I found in my research of looking into this, that's already a site that's offered up to tourists to visit. People are encouraged to go and look at that water tower. It's a beautiful thing. It was just repainted. And so the traffic, I don't think most dog owners, pet owners are going to be up there in heavy equipment. If you want this to happen, that's a perfect site in the short, near term. If you want to find excuses or reasons to not have it happen, you can come up with them all day long. I mean, I don't know how deep those pipes are buried. I don't know where the fence posts would be put in. But if you want to make it happen, you can figure that out. I mean, there's a tractor that drives over it and mows it right now. The dogs aren't heavy. They're not going to be doing that. They'll tear it up, and you have to figure that's part of your process. But asking people to park where they're already being encouraged to go and park and visit, your valves and your pipes aren't being damaged right now. So maybe there's additional signage or fencing or bushes, or maybe there's a designated parking place for people to go and use this park if you create it there. It certainly wouldn't be $100,000 worth of groundworks. The dog group has $20,000. The town would perhaps offer up some money as well, and you'd have your dog park right now. That's just my opinion. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else from for the question period? Anybody online, Mr. Knopper?
Mr. Bates. Mr. Bates, do you have any questions for council?
No?
Mr. Bates, if you wanted to ask a question, you can raise your hand. No further questions.
Okay, if there's no further questions, we're moving right along. The councilors and the deputy mayor's comments. Any comments by Councilor Harland?
I just have one. I know we've had a long night, but I'd like to just give a shout out to our recreation director, Mervyn Hanselpacker, for the first and hopefully not the last Recreation and Leisure Expo. I had an opportunity to attend as a service provider. There were more service providers there than I had anticipated. The attendance was a bit disappointing from my perspective, although I think that as an event that hopefully will grow and continue to grow momentum, it's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful opportunity. So just give a big shout out to Mervyn for the work he put into pulling that together. Thank you.
Any other councilor? Councilor Heenan.
Just wanted to do a shout out to the summer students who worked for us so hard this summer and all the work they did. They did a phenomenal job, and they were always friendly, even at 8 o'clock in the morning. So a big shout out and a thank you.
Anybody else? I guess just me. I usually go as deputy mayor, and I want to thank Mervyn too. He's helping me to organize September 30th, which is going to come up, and there's a few other events that he has planned, and he's just doing a super job. So I appreciate him meeting with me. I appreciate you guys listening to all the Indigenous things I have to do. September is the month when the students go back to school, so welcome back students and teachers to school, and be safe. I would ask that you slow down because baby deer was struck by my house today. So you've got to be careful, and I know we're working on trying to lower the speed limit, but we really have to be cautious. We have a lot of deer. I know there are many that are not in favor of them. I kind of like them myself, but and I like the pieball, who is the white deer, and I guess there's 3 or 4 pieballs now. But the one that I like is the original, which I understood was only supposed to live past only 5 years, and I think she's 7. So I'm very fortunate. I like the animals. I'm not a gardener, so I prefer the animals, and the deer are special. So sacred, the white one is a sacred deer to the Indigenous people, so just kind of like to see them survive, but we did take over their territory, and that's all I'm going to say. No, it's not. I have noticed, and I have heard from a lot of seniors, that people who can drive e-bikes and e-scooters, and I'm not talking about the scooters that seniors need to have to get around. I'm talking about the scooters or the skateboards with the electronics in it. They are whizzing by. They are going up the one-way street the wrong way, and a lot of complaints have come that we are allowing this. It's not that we are allowing it. It's, if you know the rules of the road, you have to follow it because you are driving a vehicle. I have seen a few students get off them, or a few people, and I shouldn't say students because there were a couple of older ones, that got off and walked their scooter, their skateboard or whatever electronic thingy, the 3 blocks that they had to walk. But most of them are going up the sidewalks or going up the one-way street the wrong way. Please be careful. Please get off your electronic thing and walk it if you can. Even the bicycle, you can walk it. I just am worried about children, seniors, being run over, and there are some that have a difficulty, and especially we're trying to work on slowing the speed down by the clam digger. Please be careful. There were a couple of seniors. This weekend was phenomenal with people in the town, but out there it was even worse with all the traffic. And I heard from a friend of mine that his father almost got hit because he's a senior. He was trying to cross the road. He parked his car, all that story. So please slow down. Please be observant, and please take care. That's all I'm asking for the safety issue. And please come out September 30th. I'm looking forward to having all of you out there. So anything else? I know we have to go into closed session, and I will read what it has to say, and then we will go into closed session. Right? So at 9:25, council moves into closed session per the Local Governance Act, Section 68(1)(c), information that could cause financial loss or gain to a person or the local government, or could jeopardize negotiations leading to an agreement or contract. So I need a mover, Mr. Heenan, Councillor Heenan, and a seconder, Councillor Neal. Thank you very much, and thank you for coming. So sorry it was so long. Be faster with the mayor, but you get stuck with the deputy mayor. Thank you very much, and we're going to break while the CHCO. All in favor, sorry? Aye. Carried. So we're in closed session in a few minutes. We're just going to let CHCO close down. Thank you.